Hello everyone. Slight audio mix up there with a lack of mic picking up. Where's the rest of it? Yeah, we're all good. So let's go. Hello everyone. Welcome to the Mead Hall with me, your host, Zeta, or John, if you've seen me on the channel. Coming in and doing a bit of a hobby takeover as Jamie isn't in today to be able to make it for the regularly scheduled stream. So as you've probably seen in the title, we're going to be painting some tiny toys. And what do I mean by tiny toys? We of course mean some tiny Legions lads. Now, the lovely thing about Legions is it's very quick and very easy to get a bunch of guys painted. You know, these 5 took me best part maybe of like an hour or less, to get them all done. So, the turnaround is very nice and quick. The downside is there's a lot of them. I haven't even counted the number of points. It's not enough. That is the running joke. We did a recording just the other day, and Jamie was going over the number of points that he's collected, or managed to get started and get in various states. And this paltry amount here is nothing, but it's still needs painting. So that's what we're going to be doing today. So these are ones that are I've got the kind of like the first pass that we're going to be doing today, which is all about just try and get it on camera, all about those black on the shoulder pads and on the weapons casings, and then they get a touch of silver on them just to add a bit more depth to it. Now, those of you that are familiar with our YouTube channel will maybe recognise that John, hold on, gonna make a bit of noise. Bam. This is our to-do pile today. You might go, John, or Zeta, those look suspiciously red for Iron Warriors, the faction that you definitely 100% said that you were going to be sticking with throughout the entirety of the Legions. To which I say, yeah. I was going to try and come up with a good defense. I don't have a good defense. My good defense is the following. I'm just going to grab and bring them on screen so you can all see. My good defense is this. These, I spent a good chunk of time getting these done, put together. And then the thought of doing this over and over again with those hazard stripes just wasn't filling me with joy. The other thing as well is I wasn't feeling the flavour. We've got some like narrative ideas that are coming up in the channel. Some battle reports we want to do that will have like a good narrative spin to them. And I was really, really struggling to make it feel like it fit, if that makes sense. Having some plans kind of around like various kind of warp shenanigans taking place and the like, that I was like, I'm not really sure that the old Iron Warriors are going to fit in that particular camp. There we go. So instead, I was like, well, what else do I fancy doing? And I've been painting up for 10th, as you saw in the very, very first Twitch stream that we did here. Painting up some Black Templars. So I thought, maybe I could do some Black Templars. They're fun. I like my Black Templars. And then I did one as in a Legion scale, and I very quickly realised that an entirely black army is not the most exciting thing to see at Legion scale. Now I know, I've seen various people who've done like Raven Guard armies or Dark Angels armies, and they look really cool. They do look very, very cool. But they do still run into that same kind of problem of you've got to put in actually almost more work because of how simple it is. You're working with something that is an entirely black colour scheme, and therefore, you've got to do a lot more details, a lot more things. Let's try and get this on camera. A lot more things to just make that black element stand out. So I was like, okay, maybe not that one. Maybe that's not the answer we want to go for. So I then went, I was like, okay, well, part of our narrative is there's a little bit of like working alongside the Eldar. And I was like, oh, I could do Blood Ravens. Yeah, we're being very loosey-goosey with the old setting. You know, obviously Legions is intended as a Horus Heresy setting, and I was like, well, yeah, if we're being loose with it, I could justify some Blood Ravens, and the Dawn of War games, absolutely iconic. Probably the thing that if I was to, previously say that's probably the area where I've spent the most amount of time in when it comes to 40k. Up until I actually got into the miniatures, properly. But then I kind of, I had the thought, and I was like, well, Blood Ravens are cool. Yeah, they're cool. But what's the extra flavour to them? Like, where can we add some extra spice? With the Iron Warriors, and that was the other thing with the Iron Warriors, is I was really thinking, I'll do like demon engines to go with them. But they didn't really start with demon engines until much later in, kind of post-heresy, as they got a bit more warp shenanigan-y. And that's fine, obviously, I could do that. But because there isn't a huge outcry for tiny demon engines, there's not, a huge amount of files that can be used to build demon engines. But I was like, well, I like the idea of doing a, one force that's good, quote unquote. The classic argument, no, there's no good guys in 40k. Yep. But, and to be fair, there isn't. But yeah, I was like, well, let's stick with what we've kind of done. Have these traitor forces, and rather than going demon engines, what if I just went pure demons? And thinking about like the colour scheme of Blood Ravens, like, well, that's relatively easy, but what if I made it even easier of just whack some red, whack some black on, job's done, we've got an army, Word Bearers. And it means that then I can start to, pump out making some demons and things like that, and if rumours are to be believed, and they're going to do Legion scale demons, then, I've got the force ready to go for them. But yeah, it's quite a nice colour scheme actually. I quite like going through it, and so yeah, I then went, well, I'll stick with the Word Bearers as a bit of thing, and thus far I've done a lot more painting of them because it's kind of that straightforward, compared to the Iron Warriors that have sat there for a really long time, and I've just been, I can't bring myself to start painting them because I know what I need to do it. I'm just going to rearrange some stuff super quick. Make it a little bit easier to hold it up to the camera. Keep it in frame, hopefully. In amongst all of the other mess. So yeah, that's where we're at. We're on Word Bearers now. And it's kind of funny because there was a video that we did a while back that was our defense of people in the universe, and the Joe, who was the orchestrator of the whole thing, gave me Erebus, and it kind of it kind of got me thinking as well of like, ooh, these Word Bearers, they're very much the bad guy, and there's something kind of cathartic in just being like, oh no, there's no redeeming, they're just the bad guys, pure and simple. Oh, there you go. Try and keep it on screen. Need to lock my arm in place so that I remember to keep it in the right location. There's not a lot of detail to them yet. There's lots of details on the model, but there's not a huge amount of detail to be spied yet in terms of the painting. So yeah, that's where I'm at now with these Word Bearers. I'm going to be playing the bad guy. And there is something delightfully cathartic and kind of almost freeing, maybe the wrong word, but, just being like, yeah, these are the bad guys. And it's quite good fun to, have a faction that can run like a little bit of everything. And that's really what I was hoping to do. There's a running gag in our little team, in our little group, of the army that I should be running in everything that I do is World Eaters. Because at heart, if we go from D&D perspective, I'm a barbarian. What's the shortest route to the enemy, and how do I hit them in the face when I get there? And Word Bearers Word Bearers very much fit that. Sorry, World Eaters, pardon me, very much fit that description. But I also, I don't always want to be doing melee. It's part of actually why, not always doing melee, but part of why I was like, well, I don't think Tower for me, because I, didn't just want to play one phase of the game. And World Eaters, it's going to catch me out multiple times now, World Eaters feel very much like they just want to play in one part of the game. So I was like, well, no. Not for me, no thank you. Let's keep things a little bit more interesting and play in a couple more phases. So yeah, that's how we've ended up on our Word Bearer element. And I think I could definitely see, and we've spoke about this again in one of our recent recordings, them adding in demons. There's a little bit of that kind of a demand, a thing of saying this would be really cool, and as we've already seen with the Mechanicus and the Dark Mechanicus, that GW are kind of happy to use, to a certain degree, Legions as a bit of a testbed of new models. Everything that's in Legions is meant to be in Horus Heresy and vice versa. So they're not opposed to introducing something in Legions and then pulling it across to the Horus Heresy. And as it currently stands, I had a look, and I couldn't really see the rules for demons. Now, I'm not the biggest Horus Heresy player. I don't have all the books, don't have anything like that. But it was just kind of like a bit of a cursory glance, and it seems that there isn't a proper thing in place for the demons. It's just like, you can take them as a little bit of like a weird unit. They're not very specialised. It just seemed a little bit weird. Now, as I said, I'm not a Horus Heresy player, but if anybody is who can fill me in on the details of that, or I can, in all fairness, I can do some more research outside of this. And let me know, what is actually taking place with the demons. Like, how do they work in Horus Heresy? Because I know they're present, maybe not as present as they are in 40k now, but they are still present. And it'd be interesting to see what you might get out of, the kind of the demons turning up and things like that. And it did also, I was musing on this on the drive back after the recording, of what a box set might look like. If they're going to do
Marine Squad deployed.
Oh. Thank you, Sunkoi, for the follow. That made me jump. I was enjoying the silence, and all of a sudden, bam.
Marine Squad deployed.
Oh, and Purple Tea. Thank you. Thank you all for the follow. I'm trying to see if anything's popped up. Oh, thank you very much. Both Sunkoi and Purple Tea for the follow. Very much appreciate that. So yeah, where was I? I'm trying to see if anybody's popped up. We've just got some follow notifications. Either way, most appreciated. What I was going to say was... I've lost my train of thought now. So, demons come out. Yeah? They're going to need to do something as like a big release for the demons. Ah! Hello, Sunkoi!
Defending objective.
Welcome, everybody, to this impromptu little bit of a... Oh... Nightbot, please. See, I'm sorry. Nightbot is not being... Fine, I won't yell at you. Nightbot is being overly protective, and it was one that I'd meant to figure out in terms of fixing. Woo! Hello, Sunkoi. Thank you for the raid. I feel incredibly blessed. Hello, everybody. Right, welcome. Yeah, Nightbot is being Nightbot. Can I get it to
Marine squad deployed.
behave and not do what it's doing? That's gonna be one where I'm gonna have to. I will ask Sunkoi afterwards very nicely if they can give me a fix on the old. What's the word? Nightbot situation. Whilst we're here, right? I'm also just gonna slightly turn that down because that is very loud on my end. You're still worth. Oh, thank you, Sia. Thank you. Welcome everybody. It just needs a kick in to tone it down. It just needs a little bit of a tone down to not be quite as aggressive. Hello everybody, right? Welcome. Let's do this properly. Welcome to Mead Wargaming. We're painting absolutely tiny space marines that my camera will refuse to focus on. So what is, you can see, I am Zeta from Sunkoi's various modding and appearing occasionally on camera. But I'm here today as a little bit of a takeover on the old Mead Wargaming channel, which is a collaborative channel that I'm running with me and a group of mates. The brainchild of the guy who normally runs our Twitch streams, called Jamie, who basically wants us to do a bit more with Warhammer, and kind of turn it into a little bit of a hobby thing. We're doing it, so why not, record ourselves doing it and talk about stuff. So on the docket today, in terms of what we're going to be painting, is we are painting some, well, as it says, tiny toys. Specifically, we're painting what's going to be used for Legions Imperialis, which is a different game system. Thank you to a proper beauty vlog with that. Thank you. So yeah, it's only because I've only got the one camera. But yeah, they're absolutely tiny by comparison. If we were to grab, this is our regular marine, and these are our absolutely tiny lads that run along that we're running instead. It means that when it comes to building an army, we can play with a lot more models. This is considered to be one unit, and they usually run in groups of 10 plus, each stand having, come on, camera, focus, or not. Autofocus is not playing ball. Nope. Oh well. So yeah, we're going to have lots to do. This is the current to-do. This is the 50% done. And then over here is the even more to-do, as I loosely scroll it around. These are all the big ones that need doing. I'm going to say big size difference from the original save screens. I'm still not sure which ones will be my first. Brother collects Skaven. Interesting. So, if your brother collects Skaven, would you go fantasy, or are you thinking of kind of, pulling him across to the old 40k setting? Because Skaven does mean that you could be playing, instead? Age of Sigmar, or the new old fantasy? Think fantasy. And again, there's now, just to really add even more confusion to it, because why keep things simple? Would you think about doing old world fantasy, which is the stuff that's kind of based off of the old Warhammer series, or would you be going for more kind of Age of Sigmar elements? What are you thinking there, Sia? Just like the miniature, that is the correct answer. Pick what you like. Now, if I can say some things about kind of the different range options that you've got. If you want to go with more what I would consider I'm trying to think of the right wording of it. Essentially grounded fantasy, in as grounded as Warhammer ever gets. You've got what is considered the old world, which is basically a bunch of very old. It's a lot of older models as well, actually. But you've got kind of your very much like knights on one side. You've got some like undead Egyptians, and then you've got orcs, and you've got some Skaven, things like that. Or you go with Age of Sigmar, which Sunkoi would definitely be approving of. And in that one, that's much more of like your high fantasy style. I'll be honest, there's always a part of me that's looked at Age of Sigmar being like, oh, maybe I could have gone with Age of Sigmar instead. I'm too far down the rabbit hole now. I can't get myself out. But Age of Sigmar, hands down, has some of the most spectacular models. Everything just feels so like flavorful and like beautifully designed. To the point where I will regularly steal stuff from Age of Sigmar to use in 40k because I'm essentially jealous of what they've got over there. Which is funny because I'm definitely the person who like enjoys painting marines, which are by far the single most boring element that you could get in 40k. But I just think they're neat, you know. But yeah, Age of Sigmar, tons of options in there. If one of Sunkoi's potential plans. It's one of those ones that's gonna happen eventually. It's just when it happens. Is the Gossamed Archers, which are from the Sylvaneth faction. They are essentially like spirits that are piloting trees. Is there that much difference in the rules between 40k and Sigmar that it's impossible to switch over? In terms... So, I've personally never played Age of Sigmar. So I need to put that one out there first of all, of just, I've never played Age of Sigmar. But, in terms of the rule set, as I understand it, there is a much bigger crossover of rules between Age of Sigmar and 40k than there was between Warhammer Fantasy and 40k. So, Age of Sigmar, as I understand it, is much more about like your heroes and your small troops that you're running. It's really kind of you're running much more of like a skirmish game than you are running like full kind of armies. And I know they call like Kill Team and Warcry as skirmish games, but it's still going to be like a smaller army than you'd be running if you were running in Fantasy. But the kind of the thing that you go into Age of Sigmar for is very much like the characters. One of the things that you can take in Age of Sigmar are like literal gods, or the avatars of gods. And unlike 40k, they actually feel like it. From what I understand, they're basically like the rule set and the points cost and things like that. They're big, they're big, they're scary, they're gonna get you. So there's but in terms of kind of how it's all played, as I understand it, there's a lot of similarities with some different kind of mechanics because obviously there's less of a focus on shooting. There's more of a focus around like kind of like magic and like the cost of magic and things like that. That it does seem very interesting, and there's lots of little quality of life features that I think they put into Age of Sigmar first to see how it goes, and then if it does really well, they pull it across to 40k. But it's only if that happens. I feel like it's harder to feel like a god in the universe 40k where everyone is super tough. You'd think so, wouldn't you? Yeah, you'd think so. But in
Marine squad deployed.
There's plenty of tough people around there. Lord Caldor Drago 40k, thank you very much for the follow. What a great name. I was on the fence in terms of whether it was going to be some Chaos Gate music, so we're not going to have it. What music have I got actually playing? We're on Dawn of War music, which I think is coming up. Now I will apologise for the fact that these are word bearers, so but I do normally go and whatchamacallit. I do normally paint some loyalists as well. I'll leave them on screen just so that I can guarantee. So yeah, gonna go look and touch grass /snow. Enjoy. There's no music playing. Right. Let's try... Oh, that might have been a bit too loud. How's that sounding now, Sunkoi? Can you hear it? I think I might have over-egged it initially. Is it gentle background music, or is it all coming through? Yes, we have teeny tiny word bearers today. All clear. Oh, excellent. I didn't want it to be a bit too drowning out. So yes, itty bitty word bearers for our various Legions games. A little more music, volume on the music, absolutely. There we go. So yes, we've got four, sorry. Pardon me, we've got 4 of us who are painting up armies for our Legions. I mean, I did have to... So we've got a little YouTube channel, just responding to that statement of being a little sus. We do have a YouTube channel, and in that, one of my goals was to try and defend the actions of Erebus. I failed horribly, but, you know, I tried. You know, I was endeavouring to justify justify it all. It didn't work, but I tried. I've also just noticed another thing, which is our chat seems to be disappearing. So I'm just going to have a quick gander and figure out between the two. No, it's all Sunkoi. This is why I've got you here to. It doesn't help that it keeps turning up and down. Right, chat delay, always show messages, save settings. Right, with any luck now, it should also keep everybody's messages on the screen, because it seemed to be just disappearing after each time, which made it very difficult to be able to follow, at least on the screen element. Hopefully now it should just ping it off the edge of the screen once it's full. Where was I? So yes, we've got 3 of us who are all painting up different forces for the game of Legions Imperialis. I have gone through 3 different factions to paint. The first one never got off the ground. Easy to say, just didn't ever happen, which was going to be World Eaters. That was my first thought, because I like how World Eaters play. Mainly running at the enemy as fast as possible and hitting them in the face with melee. But there isn't a huge amount of melee currently in Legions, so I was like, well, that's kind of out the window. So the next one then, and the one that got further, were the Iron Warriors. I was going to do them alongside some Demon Engines and stuff like that, and then, you know, when the Dark Mechanicus has come out for it, I was like, oh, perfect, yeah. I can run my Iron Warriors. But the problem is, my Iron Warriors, I did the Terminators, and then did not want to play anymore, because tiny hazard stripes do not spark joy in my heart. They spark joy in the sense of I like how they look. They don't spark joy for how I have to paint them. And the fact that whenever I'm painting them, it annoys me when they're not like even, and then I just spend more and more time on them, and yeah. So I was after something different. I was after something that I could run for some like fun, like narrative elements, and Word Bearers just kind of fit. I like the idea of mixed units. I like the idea of writing weird rules, and I can run me some demons to go with it. They did turn out good. Those little guys. And in all fairness, hold on, briefly pop this down. Also, and this is a Christmas present that Sunkoi got me. Spoilers: we live together. Let me just shimmy this on screen. Is this little thing here? If you are a painter, find one of these. So, real simple. You have clean water there. You've got a little bit in here. You go in, you clean your brush up. I mean, I've literally just cleaned it off screen. But you give your brush a little clean, and you press the button, drains the water out, and refills it. A, very satisfying, and B, means that you've always got like a nice supply of like fresh, clean water to keep your brushes looking all nice. So, for reference in terms of how far and how insane I got when it came to hazard stripes, let's pull them all on screen. This is what I did. And I love them. They're great. Yeah, they came out perfectly. Relatively speaking. They came out good. They didn't come out perfect. And there are some where I was like, the stripes are a bit thicker than others. There's some where they're not. But
Marine squad deployed.
It did not make me... It did not spark joy to paint them. And it got worse when it came to the big ones. Stuff like this, it was just looking a little bit messy. So I wanted something that I could do a little bit easier and a little bit cleaner. But also stuff where I can make little bits of mess and it doesn't actually matter. Which is like the appeal of the Word Bearers, is I'm going to do them with like these little, runic scribes and things like that on them, and if they look a little bit messy, then that's not the end of the world. Because, they're meant to look like little runic scratchings that are kind of all over them. The infantry, however, are not. I will briefly show. So the only bit of detail I'm doing on the infantry is on 1 in every 5. Chaotic stripes are not... Arcane stripes are not... You know what? Yes, but... Yeah, you're not wrong. But there's a thing of like, the Iron Warriors trying to keep themselves, I guess, clean chaotic? I don't know how to describe it. It's not a bug, it's a feature. I think I'm just a little bit like of a... I'll tell you the other thing. And this is the other one actually that got me with it. Sorry, just very quickly. This, and I will endeavour to try and get on the camera. So, this here is the only bit of detail that I'm going to do. And that's only on the sergeants. So on my infantry, the only thing I need to worry about is on the sergeant, they get that symbol on their shoulder. Which is intended to represent what is the Word Bearer's chapter symbol, which is basically a open book with a little flame in the middle, and then basically like a little horned demon face inside of it. However, at this scale, what that is I do a line of white in one direction, a smaller up of yellow, and then a dot in the middle of black. And honestly, when I did that, I was like, that is super quick to do, and actually yields the results that I was looking for. And I only have to do it on 1 in every 5. So I don't mind doing that. I probably will. I will inevitably lament and complain, and then some guy will tell me, well, you could have made it easier for yourself, and I will say, yes, you're not wrong. But anyway. Yeah, the other big reason for wanting to change across to doing Word Bearers is I'm a bit of a lore stickler. Not super lore stickler, There's, as evidenced by some of the models that I've got in my Black Templars army, I'm not that much of a I'm a stickler for things that feel like they would make narrative sense. Stuff that works within like the context of it, stuff that makes sense within my head. And one of the things that we've got is we've got a bunch of different factions that we're running for Legions and some narrative stuff that we want to do with it. And the big kind of first element that we're doing is one of our players has a much smaller force than the others. Their force is going to be playing as Night Lords, and they're really kind of they're starting out slow. They're doing like a little bit at a time. So part of the thing that they're doing to kind of bolster their force is they've actually printed out and are in the process of painting up a tiny Conrad Kurz. Primarch of the Night Lords, for a bit of extra context to people. I think I messed that with the black. Whew. And just slapped black all over it there. So we're going to be doing this like little narrative storyline. Is a vague kind of idea around it, and part of that then means that there's going to be some warp shenanigans that are taking place to justify it within our narrative for essentially somebody who's dead to come back. And I don't know, it just didn't feel very Iron Warrior-y. Warp shenanigans felt far more Word Bearers. So there was a lot of things working against it for me to stick with Iron Warriors. And there's also a distinct underrepresentation of Word Bearers. Black Legion gets lots. But, Word Bearers, there's not enough Word Bearers out here. And I think it's because they're the bad guys. And as I was saying earlier, there is something kind of, relieving, something quite cathartic about saying, yeah, I'm just going to play the bad guys. The unashamed bad guys in this case. So, my plan is I'm going to get these, get my good chunk of my force painted up, and then we're going to start to look at figuring out how to get some demons into the mix. And I want to get basically representation of all of the Chaos Gods in here. So I'm going to have little tiny bloodletters, and little tiny Nurglings, tiny, probably the blue and pink and brimstone horrors, and little tiny demonettes. And basically just have like this big allied demon force that I can just pull out and start running across the battlefield. And the other nice thing, and I meant to actually say this to Sunkoi, with some ideas of what I'm going to run. Because the nice thing with demons, absolutely, it's going to be demon stays, but the nice thing with demons is demons can be any size you want. There's various bits within the lore of demons being described as these huge entities, or going incredible. They can adjust their size because all they are is made up of warped material. So I was like, well, what could, if I've got the option to run anything for demons, what could I start to add in? And, if it's a demon, it can just be any size. So, the idea I've had, and bear in mind that Legions is all about running Titans. So you want to run your big kind of stompy mech things, you've got big ships, you've got all this kind of big stuff. So I want to run big demons. So my plan is, this is going to be one of the demons that I'm going to be running. For the context of this one is, we're gonna have old Sinessa or Dexessa. It's a dual kit, running as a giant demon over the battlefield. Absolutely huge Slaanesh demon. And then we've also then got, if I go into the other ones, for Nurgle, I'm thinking, Great and Clean one is a good classic.
Marine squad deployed.
Ones like this, Rotigus, things like that. I mean, they are the same kit. Maybe giant beasts of Nurgle, things like that. But basically, anything that isn't immediately obviously designed to be small, having as these giant demons across the field. There was one that we were looking at for, these are all Age of Sigmar versions, because Age of Sigmar gets all the best bits. For Khorne, there was one which I was looking at. I thought giant flesh hounds would be fun, but where is he? It was this one here, the Khorne Bloodthirster. Although the only downside, and we were looking at this because I was in the shop the other day, and I was looking at this model, and I was like, oh, what a great dynamic pose, leaping off the battlefield, weapons swinging in action. And then I looked, and my attention was drawn to down here, all of this model, the entirety of this model, is balanced on this flame. Which means that the second that that thing gets knocked, it's just snapping. It's just absolutely coming apart. I'd also have to figure out what to do with the skulls, because there's going to be some skulls that are in some weird proportions there. So yeah. It's so precarious, right? I was looking at it, and it was like, it is a stiff breeze away from just being snapped in two. So yeah, that one's more of a maybe than others. Scarbrand, another classic, could be fun. But yeah, the running giant demons is where I'm at in terms of plans for when I get stuff together. And obviously also tiny demons to run alongside them, because they only look big if you've got, the little guys running alongside. So yeah, that's the plan. Oh, if there was ever a Warhammer Hell of Boss crossover that make a great safety model. You know what? I hadn't even thought about that, but yes. I'm going to have to go back to it now. Hold on. Is there... I'm trying to remember if there's a different head on it. That would be even more. Because it comes with like a couple of different head options. Hold on, let's bring it back up on screen. So, it could be... Hold on, let's close that down. So, there's this style head. Could work. Or maybe... more like this one. And now I've got the idea for just the weirdest crossover paint job ever. And to be fair, it's not even that far away from being, Hell of Boss Satan, but it would be a weird one to try and explain. Like there'd be a lot of conversations about like, what have you chosen that paint job? Well, you see, there's this show on YouTube, and inspired by that, I've done this paint job to it. Yeah, definitely. It would be a choice. One that I could definitely see working. Because there's definitely some fun designs in there. So yeah, going back to our various different armies. So mine is going to be demon-heavy focused word bearers with a few titans in the mix because big stompy robot fun, and then also some infantry and things like that. I'm torn on the idea of trying to get kind of cultists and things like that running for them because there isn't really that in the game. There's the kind of the Solar Auxilia, which is a bit more kind of organised. So they're up in the air in terms of what I'd go for them. But I do have a set of files for potentially kind of printing out some Solar Auxilia, and in particular, they remind me really heavily. And if you've seen June, the Sardaukar, so like the elite force that's in June, this particular print, like a lot of the kind of arm design, really reminds me of them, with like the big kind of like helmets and stuff like that, like the kind of faceless dome helmets that they had, and various bits of that. Where I was like, that could be quite a fun like paint scheme to run them with. The white armor with the kind of black face mask helmets. Could be quite a fun one to run. Outside of that, then there is a. Well, I'll go through the easy size forces. We've got Elle, who's on our team, and she's going to be bringing Night Lords, kind of painting up Astartes with then, as I said previously, like a little Comrade Curse that's going to be alongside it, because we do want to do the Primarchs, because why not? We've got the option, and there's chances that some rules will come out for them eventually to have Primarchs in the Horus Heresy or in Legions Imperialis, and then we've got our slight outlier in the form of Joe, who is running Eldar. Now, Eldar were definitely not in the Horus Heresy. They were around, yes, they were around, because they've been around for longer than humanity, but they didn't really play a particularly big role when it came to the Horus Heresy. They were off doing their own thing. So yeah, but he's found somebody who has basically like written some rules for including Eldar at Legion scale, because essentially you could run Eldar when the game was called Epic, and in particular games like Epic Armageddon and the like. There were rules for running Eldar, and he basically decided he wanted to run Eldar. So this is kind of what's taken us on this spin of, we're not really playing Legions, we're just kind of using Legions as a rule set to play our own kind of version of the game. So he's doing like a very like armor heavy, in the sense of like running lots of tanks and stuff like that. And then we have the person who and we were doing the numbers on kind of, how many points worth of models they've got. And they're up to about, I think we said the other day, somewhere in the region of about 10,000 to 16,000 points worth of models that they have, with somewhere in the region of, I think they said about 8,000 odd points that are painted and ready to go. Now, for reference, each 5 guys that I've got down here are next to nothing in terms of points. The point values are for this kind of scale are very small. A Titan, for reference, is, and these are the big guys, will run you 400 and something odd points. So that kind of starts to put into perspective when he says he's got 10k worth of points. Just how many models he's got. 10k and another 2-3. Hello, Arcadius. The man of the hour himself. What impeccable timing. Speak of the devil and all of that. Yes. Go on. You as resident rules lawyer and knower of all things rules based, you'll be able to say, how many points is just a stand of 5 Marines? Because I know it's basically nothing. I mean, it's so few that you can't even take just 5, but they're incredibly low by comparison to the 10k worth of points that you're sitting pretty at. Just got back. I hope everything is going well. Oh, more importantly, as well as it can be, understandably. 12. Yeah, so 12. You're dealing with 12 points on them. We are on. I've just noticed something else. Why are we set to that? I'm gonna hold on, everybody. I'm just gonna do a quick tweak on one of these rules as soon as I can figure out where the button is. This is me. Modes. It's off. Okay, interesting. You'll say on mine that slow mode is on, but it shouldn't be. Yeah, I think it's all off now. Yeah, so when each stand of 5 is worth about 12, 10k points is kind of a lot. Arcadius, I was chatting earlier when I was saying about the idea of demons and stuff like that, and it's actually it came to me when on the drive back of how they could do demons and custodians, not as in together. That would be a bit of a narrative spin that you might have to kind of work around. But what if they did them as a versus box? So I'm quite, yes, sorry, I had meant to say, by the way, to raid and go get snacks and things like that. Thank you so much for the raid and bringing everybody across, trusting your followers with us to sit and watch some tiny toys getting painted up, hopefully. Yeah, please go rest, relax, and I will. Well, I'll see you in a bit anyway. So yeah, what I was thinking is, what if they did a Demons versus Custodes box, and it's the battle under the Imperial Palace. That battle in the after the kind of the Webway project was broken, and you had the the whole spawn underneath the Imperial Palace and having basically a box that is demons versus custodes under the Imperial Palace. I thought that could be, a fun thematic. You get two sides. It's like a versus box, like a classic kind of versus box that you could do. I know, like, thus far, the versus box that they've sold for Legions has been, well, you can play them as two forces versus each other, or you could combine them both together to make kind of like a combined force. But what do you reckon to the idea of a combined box, one that has custodes and demons, and you flavour it around that kind of the war under the Imperial Palace? Because that was definitely taking place towards, obviously, like the end of the Horus Heresy, wasn't it? That sounds like a great intro if they want to drop two factions. Nice. It would be a very specific box set, but it was an idea I had of, like, well, what if they wanted to do both? Because we were saying about like the issues with having kind of custodes in the game, of like how many points they should be and things like that. I also Battle in the Webway, yeah. So I did also have a gander at the full Horus Heresy rule set. Not in any huge detail, but I had a gander at the points, because we were chatting in the podcast about the kind of like the points difference between Marines and Custodes, and in the Horus Heresy, a 10-man squad of standard tacticals. So I was kind of using standard tacticals as like the baseline. So 10-man squad of standard tacticals is 100 points. A 3-man squad of standard custodians, as standard as they could ever possibly get, is 150. So I think they probably... I don't know if I mentioned, but previous streams will be available at 5 on YouTube. I hadn't, but there you go. So Arcadius' stream that was last Sunday will be up on YouTube at 5 o'clock. Thank you, I had forgotten to mention that. It was a little bit of an impromptu stream today, but it's fun. I'm glad to be here and having some justification to sit down and slap some paints on some tiny dudes. So yeah, they have been kind of the precedent is set there with those custodians to cost a lot more than Marines. So I would be unsurprised if we didn't see the custodians come out and cost a goodly chunk more. I mean, if you said what single standard Marines, that's 5 Marines costs you 12 points. You'd be looking at double that for 2, so like 30 like 3 custodians, one stand of 3 custodians would set you back 30, probably like 30 points, something like that. Speaking of which, did you want me to take the hot seat at some point? Up to you. I can keep going for a little bit longer. I had kind of assumed that I didn't know, well, I knew what time you were going to get back, but I didn't know whether you'd be up for taking over, or we can do it as 2 halves and splice it together. What we can do is, if you did, shall I say, I can do about, well, what do you fancy? Do you want to do a half and half? Because I know how to make that one work. Or I can just keep going. Oh, I missed. I've got the wrong bit there. Whoops. Oh well. It's not like anybody's going to notice at that kind of scale. Right, just double check. I think I've got everybody. Black on the gun, black on the shoulders. Oh, okay, a little bit of the trim underneath. Not that anybody's going to notice, but I'm going to notice if I don't do it. Yeah, we're still trying to figure out this whole Twitch sharing system. it's easy on YouTube, and we can all sit down together, or we could all make videos and upload videos separately. But Twitch is a little bit of a different beast. We tried out to begin with having an account shared between us, and just the hassle of kind of trying to transfer control just really did not work. So we're going to try a little bit of a different system today. I think what we'll say Arcadius is... What? If I say go for... How long have I been going for now? What time are we on? I've lost track. Going for about an hour. Happy to put, you're welcome to run until the end if you're happy, otherwise I have to take the reins if you prefer. Cool. You've made it my choice. Excellent. I jest, of course. Right. What time is it? 3 o'clock now. I'm going for about an hour. I'll tell you what, if I say go until like 22, give like another half an hour, do roughly like an hour and a half, and then what I can do is then if you get it set up on the other channel, and then I can raid in, I can take all these lovely people across to join us on t'other stream, and then you can take it, and then you can take the reins from there. And I can also talk you through the raid process, because I know that's something that we were talking about, discussing, and I meant to talk about it yesterday, but I kind of completely forgot in amongst everything else that we were getting sorted. Oh, let's bring these guys back on screen. Come on, play ball. There you go. Yeah, we'll need to figure out a little bit of a schedule so we can fit around. But this, yeah, the two stage step approach, I feel like it would definitely work. As we share across between. So you also missed Arcadius in the chats. Earlier, I was going over some of the ideas of models that I would be wanting to run, and saying about running kind of Titanic-sized demons, and in particular picking up some of the ones that are from the Age of Sigmar proper range. So, for example, one that I've had my eye on for a while, mostly because Sunkoi has grand aspirations at some point in the future. And this is the far future. This is definitely not a immediate kind of thing. For trying to do a Sinessa Dexessa cosplay, basically it's the cosplay for when Sunko wants to go, I want to do the absolutely insane build that is this, and it would be an absolutely insane build. But I thought that one would definitely work as just a really big Slanesh demon. We're talking like Titan level demons, which is definitely an appeal. Which is definitely the thing that has appealed to me with Word Bearers now is okay. Let's get some real big demons in this game. It's all fun and games when they're the same size as like an Imperial Knight, but when they're the same size as like a War Master Titan, then the fun and games begin. Ooh. I was also gandering at the Great Unclean One, another option there, and also lamenting the stand, or the tiny amount of fire that comes with the Bloodthirster, where you've got to try and balance the entire thing on that little bit of flame, or, as we said, probably cut it off and just build up its own to scale base. But hopefully we'll see some demons in Legions in the coming years of its release, as hopefully it's not going away anytime soon. Need something to use my volcano cannons. Yep. That's the plan. And hopefully it won't immediately just disintegrate, you know. That's what we probably need to make sure we have rules for. I wonder... Because, obviously, so Void Shields wouldn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to have something like Void Shields on there. So what would we use? Demonic Invuln saves? Or... What do you reckon would be the flavour? Because they are going to be big. But I know volcano cannons do hurt. When things are big. So, any thoughts for what maybe we could use, or anybody else? Any ideas for what could become a... Well, if anybody else is familiar with the game system. If you're not, by the way, if you aren't familiar with Legions and you're interested in kind of games at this a different scale compared to regular 40k, we can all highly recommend it. It's got some really, really nice systems. My biggest point in its favour is alternating activations, which is a system that I think GW should bring across to all of it. Warp save, similar to Knight's Iron Shields, yeah. I haven't actually looked in terms of how the Iron Shields work yet, so maybe I'll have a gander at that and see how that comes out. So yeah, but as a game system, it's just really nice. Arcadius has played way more than I have. To the point where I'm pretty sure you said it was it was being played. Was it New Year's Eve into New Year's Day? Her the other my favourite two people. Yeah, I know I'm not the better half though. That's just a given. But hello Ned, how are you doing? I'm currently doing some tiny paint jobs on. Well, I'm doing the same paint job multiple times. This is one that I've just vaguely finished here, Ned. It gets added onto. Oh no, I've just knocked one on the floor. Gets added onto this pile here. Which are in these gone through stage 1, which is going red, stage 2, which is the black, which has to be hand painted, and then stage 3, which comes afterwards, which is silver detail on everything. And then in peak Blue Peter style, here's one I made earlier. You can see the little silver details on them, and then the final step is one in every 5 gets that little tiny detail on the shoulder pad. All's well, everything's soggy here. We had some snow last night and I was a little excited, and then it rained and everything's just soggy. You know what, we got the exact same. I was round Arcadius's last night. We were doing recording for our podcasts, and we were told that it's snowing, and now it's raining, and I started basically like a half an hour drive back home, and we had some other things that we were going to do, but I was like, I'm going to go because I do not want to be driving whilst it is both snow and rain, because if it stops raining and then it goes back to being cold, that is the worst of all outcomes in terms of driving experiences. So we ended up having to cut that a little short yesterday. But yeah, everything is very soggy. Everything is it's decidedly cold and wet, which is the perfect weather to go back to work to, because that's what I got tomorrow. Back to work. Yeah, in the Christmas holidays at a close. So yeah, thought I could finish it off with a little bit of the old Twitch. What time are we on? Cool. I'm doing okay. I've got about 20 minutes before we're gonna jump across to old Arcadius, who is going to be taking back over, and aesthetically, you will notice 0 changes. Yeah, I did actually say that I was gonna. Oh, it's surprisingly warm here, but it's due to freeze tomorrow morning. No, drive safe because it's gonna be dire tomorrow morning. Is it wrong that I'm kind of hoping it's so bad that they go, you can't come in. The weather's too bad to come in. I live in hope for that, but I know that won't happen. I also need to. I haven't looked at my work laptop for the entirety of Christmas, which is the right thing to do. If you have holiday, you should be taking it. You shouldn't be spending your holiday thinking about work. The downside I've got is there are some things which I asked before I went away. Request from Word the Gods, yep. There's some stuff I asked, before I went away, before I went on holiday, before I went on the Christmas holiday, and they were like, "Oh yeah, I'll let you know about that." And I wasn't told before I went away. Yes, I would love a snow day. It feels like a long time since we had a snow day. So I asked for some kind of asked some details about it, and they were like, yeah, well, and they didn't let me know. So what I'm actually meant to be doing when I go back is up in the air at this moment in time. So I'm gonna go back on Monday, and then I'm gonna find out what I'm doing, which is fun. It's a fun addition to my job. It's not a job that requires planning. No. Not at all. Not at all something that I would benefit hugely from knowing what it is I'm exactly meant to be doing. But we'll cross that bridge when we rapidly approach to it. As I'm running at it as each hour ticks by today. Anywho, but that's not the fun bit. The fun bit is painting. Which I am very much enjoying how quickly I'm managing to get through this particular paint scheme. I need to come up with a paint scheme for my other lads, and by other lads I mean Titans. Titans and Knights, where they really want to go in for like a good kind of classic knight in the medieval sense kind of colour scheme. That is Future Zeta's problem. It is very much Future Zeta's problem. Future Zeta is a chump who will have to deal with all of the things that I have put off. And I'm sure there won't be any repercussions for that at all. So yes, I'm not planning on doing a huge stream today because we're going to do a 2-part stream where we're going to jump across to the Mead Wargaming full Twitch channel, and hopefully with a relatively seamless transition, we'll take over, or Arcadius will take over, and then on our YouTube in a bit of time, the VOD will go up as well. So yeah, make sure to if you have the time and you're interested and you want to have a gander at some more Warhammer related stuff, mostly us chatting about Warhammer. We sit down, have a chat. The VODs from our Twitch are going up there now on the regular. We've got some podcasts that we recorded yesterday. They're going to be going up there. And in the not too distant future, relatively speaking, we're going to be doing some live streaming of some D&D, which we were making characters for yesterday, and I'm very excited. I do fear that my character is going to end up becoming a bit of the parent of the group. And every D&D group needs a good parent, but I'm not sure I'm going to be a good parent. But I'm definitely going to be a controlling force, one might say. There was a run through. We're discussing kind of running through some of the basics on the characters, and there's a high possibility my character ends up being an antagonist, and I need to come up with a whole new character very quickly. But it's going to be an interesting time. Our DM has was kind of like, I don't know how I'm going to get all 4 of you to work together, and I was like, well, yeah, that's fine. If it's a problem with my character in particular, I can change. I like my character, but I'm not super attached to it. He was like, no, it's fine. I'll make it work. So yeah, that's future Joe's problems. Is what that one is. So we'll see how that all ends up panning out. But I did get, because I've essentially got a character that is fitting within his lore of the world, as basically like one of the warriors of this like organization. And he was like, oh, because you're one of these warriors, they're trained with all these things that they can do. And I was like, awesome. So what kind of things do I get? And yeah, I got some fun stuff. So I've got like they basically have like a natural healing factor. Now, hold the phone. I've only had one character who fully became the bad guy. I need that said. I've only had one character who became such a bad guy to the point where I couldn't play him anymore because I was now the villain of the story. Are you saying that Torak is the other bad guy? Because I need to know. Are you accusing the sweet angel of Torak, the Listfolk barbarian, who definitely has a... Wait, okay, hold on. So Torak, the Listfolk barbarian, who definitely has a pact with the devil, he's not a bad guy. He just craves violence in many ways, and has actually, including this hypothetical new character. Yeah, okay. I mean, hopefully, the hope that I've got for this new character is that their vibe is more along the lines of they start out as a bit of a villain, and then get Joe. Sorry, Sunkai, you're not helping me here. This is going against. This is not helping. I don't play characters that betray people all the time. I've just played it a few times. So, okay. Right, can I even remotely defend myself here? Let's give the rundown of characters that I've played in D&D that have become villains. The first one, game 1, I got essentially fed stuff that meant I had a connection to a known, a known god that infects people's minds and affects them. Okay, and that was by another player, so I can't get full responsibility for that. I did then fully commit to the bit afterwards, but I wasn't the instigator of that problem. But I did make it worse. Torak took a weapon that was definitely cursed and makes him kill things all the time. But he took that weapon to save everybody. I mean, he didn't throw it away afterwards and has since essentially agreed to murder everything in the name of this god, but at the time he was doing it for good reasons. Alfonso has no defense, other than he is Alfonso. And he only stabbed those people because he knew he could win. And my last character, or this latest one, who doesn't need a name, is working for the bad guys. So I'm hoping I can get myself out of being the bad guy. But they don't know that they're the bad guys yet. So hopefully we can pull ourselves back from that. It's fine. It's fine, Ned. I've definitely, it's fine. I've never played a bad guy in my life. We were talking about characters, and so Joe has run one game. Sunkai has run one game with one of my characters and played with another of them, but they are the same character. Yes, Sunkai has run off with two librarians. Well, run off with one, should have run away with the other, but died before they could run away with them. But Sunkai has run a game for one character and played with the other character. And as I was saying, I was chatting with people yesterday, chatting with the rest of the team yesterday, and I said they are the same character with one stat difference. But it's buried in the library, so it does count. Yeah, they did get to run away with their librarian in the end. Maybe we should have forced their resurrection, but that might have caused more problems than it was worth. So they're the same character. Again, better. They're the same character with one key stat difference. So they are both lizard folk. They are both barbarians. Slightly different paths, but at the end of the day, they're both barbarians. They have both engaged in acts of extreme violence. But one of them is vilified by the group, and the other one is treated as the group's pet. Because the key difference is one of them is sitting at a 16 intelligence, and the other one is sitting at 3. I started at 4, and I'm now at 3, because I died and came back. Well, death saving throws. There's a consequence for taking death saving throws. It's a random roll on a stat. The stat was intelligence. I'm now down to 3 intelligence. I lose 1 more intelligence. I don't get to play the character because they no longer have sapience. Or sentience, whichever way around it is. But yeah. So, that's a very fun character. And that's the one that Sunkoi has run games for. In terms of, trying to control this character. So yeah, it's all fun and games. So my latest one is going to be a monk, and in particular is going to be a Way of Mercy monk, which is a new one from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. They've kind of got like a weird plague doctor-y vibe, but they also have punches that heal people, so that was very entertaining to read. But I did start to realise that I was running the incredible risk in this game of becoming the most edgy of edge characters, and Sunkoi will get this one. I'm not full Sharon yet, but it was heading that direction, which is a very specific reference within our group, because I am playing a Shadar Kai, mostly because I think they've got some cool little bits of lore about them, and I like their kind of tattoo. There was one particular game where somebody had a Shadar Kai NPC, and their whole thing of kind of taking a bit of their lore that I don't know whether they wrote or whether it was stuff that was based off of actual lore, but a big thing on kind of tattooing to tell a story, using essentially the body to tell the story of what had happened. So any scars were treated very much like a mark of honor, of you have lived, this is what you've done, you've got these scars for these reasons. So that was kind of what led me down the route Shadar Kai. And I was like, well, I want to, I've played a monk once before and had a really good time playing a monk. I was like, oh, what else is there? I was like, this new kind of monk subclass sounds really cool, and they've got a whole mechanic around masks, and Sunkoi will vouch for my love of characters with masks. You got a character with a mask? I'm in. I was like, awesome, this the mechanic of this is based around wearing a mask. I was like, awesome. But I am realising I'm essentially playing a shadow elf that can, because Shadow Kai kind of have an elfy vibe. It's a shadow elf that can disappear into a cloud of raven feathers and then reappear somewhere else on the battlefield. I can fully nothing personal people, and whilst wearing potentially a plague doctor mask, and taking people out with these dramatically mercy infused punches and weapons and things like that. I feel like I'm a specialized weapons scythe away from becoming a full edgelord here, or a katana. Are we still enough in the Twilight Zone where eating too many chocolate donuts doesn't count? Definitely doesn't count. Definitely does not count. Have all of the real question, Ned, is: are they somebody else's donuts? Because if you didn't buy them, the calories don't count. So if they were bought by somebody else, then they don't count. It's true, Zeta only wants to cosplay characters with masks. I do. I will always favour a character with a mask. Mostly because there's multiple reasons. A, I think they look cool. But B, I don't have to worry about what my face is doing in a picture. That's the real reason. Like, having gone around the various cons with Sunkoi and then worrying about, how am I going to look in this picture and things like that, I'm like, if I have a mask on, it does not matter how tired or how ragged I am from being at a con all day, I can just stand there and I've got a mask on and I can vaguely make a pose with the body and then it's all good. Whereas if I don't have a mask, I've got something where they can see my face, I've got to think about what my face is doing. It doesn't keep getting in the way of a good character. It's just one of those ones where I want to make my life easy, and if I don't have to worry about what my face is doing, if I don't have to think about how am I going to look when this person takes this picture, I can just go, nope, I've got this big old mask on, or in the case of the Mechanicus one, when I was doing the Tech Priest, multiple bits of a mask to make a full face covering, which was incredibly uncomfortable. I'm definitely going to be looking at how to make that a better system in the future. But yeah, kind of having a mask it just makes it easier. I don't have to think about what my face is doing. Right. Ooh. I have sat for far too long. Ugh. And I have also just spied the time because I said at 22, which is coming up in the next 3 minutes, we were going to hop across to the main Mead Hall channel. So, I'm going to kind of start to get things ready and sign off a little bit here. Thank you very much, everybody. This is less of an end to it and more of a jump across to the other side. But thank you very much, everybody, for coming along to today. It's the second stream I've done, but it's the first stream I've done on this channel, so I appreciate everybody who's come along. I need to work out kind of what streaming dates there will be, and kind of when I will be streaming again. But I definitely do want to keep it up and New Year.
Marine squad deployed.
Thank you, Ned, for the follow. I will definitely be putting out some things of when I am going to be doing it. I'm just terrible at doing any of the social media stuff. So yes, in terms of where you can find me doing other stuff and our whole team over at, if you see down the bottom down here, the cheeky little Mead Hall Gaming, you can find us on YouTube and Instagram and TikTok and here. And yeah, on our main channel, which is Mead Hall Gaming. We're mostly on YouTube, that's our main thing, but we do Instagram and TikTok and the like. And yeah, we're just a variety, mostly Warhammer, mostly Legions, but also some new kind of D&D stuff and various kind of podcasts talking about different topics within the sphere of Warhammer. So yeah, that is where I am going to sign off for today. I'm hoping that I can spy Arcadius being live on our other channel, as this one is ours. Main account had begun to stream, counting down there, so there was a few minutes to account for overlap. Awesome. Well, we can go in, just before the crossover point, so that everybody can see what's happening over there. I'm just gonna make sure we got it. Perfect. I can see we got the countdown going. So yes, generally speaking, and Arcadius will go over this on the main channel, but I'll say it here, just in case we lose anybody. I will share a link in the chat to our channel. Obviously, this one is mine. Arcadius runs our main one as kind of the main face of Mead Wargaming, the main host and all of that. So yes, so Mead Wargaming for any of our YouTubes, I'll pop that in there as well. If anybody would like to go and have a gander at our channel, please do. Let's just get that link for everyone. There we go. So this is our YouTube. Every Sunday, there is a stream. It is Sunday from 2 until 5 o'clock. VODs go up on the YouTube as well after the Twitch, about a week later. So anything you missed, please have a gander. Our VOD from last week will be coming out at 5 o'clock today, so basically at the end of the current stream, or the end of this, the end of where this stream is going to go. It's going to be going until 5 o'clock. That will be coming up on YouTube, and this one will then be coming out probably the week after. It'll be a weird splice between my setup here and then the translation across to Arcadius for the main thing. And at some point, I will have an actual second camera, which means that it won't just be my hand having to wave here anytime I'm talking, or maybe I'll use the paintbrush instead as a means of being able to talk. But yeah, the plan is we're going to jump across.
Hello, and welcome to part 2 of the stream that Zeta started. Sorry, I'm just switching off a device back there because it'll probably pick up on the mic. Welcome again. So, as you can see, slightly little different setup. I've got the 2 camera setup going on at the moment, so you do get to see my ugly mug, and obviously the desk as well. So today, thank you. Just want to say a big thank you to Zeta for jumping on and covering for me. Thank you for covering for me. I had a bit of an emergency I had to go and deal with, but I am back now, so we will close out for today with me on the better lit desk, as Zeta's nicely put there. So what we're going to do today is we're actually going to do a bit of building rather than painting, because I've got lots of stuff to build, and part of our Mead Hall gathering yesterday also involved a trip to some local hobby stores, and of course you can't walk away, well certainly myself and Els can't walk away without buying stuff, so there is a little bit of extra plastic that needs to be built. So you'll get a little bit of an unboxing, bit like last week, and you'll also get to see some stuff being built. So the only thing is I don't have the bases made. You did manage to walk away empty-handed, which is impressive. I don't have my new bases printed for these guys yet, because obviously I didn't know I was getting them, but we can build them, and it will be fun. So I'm going to swap over to the other camera now. There we go, and let's crack on and see what we got. So for my own little haul, I got myself some more Baneblades to join my Auxilia forces. I've got 2 already, and I think you can run these in about 6, possibly 8 vehicles. So having an extra couple just to have a little bit of redundancy in there is quite nice. And who doesn't like a Baneblade? In fact, it was one of the when I first was in Warhammer, it was probably the largest kit I owned at the time for the 28mm scale. Obviously, nowhere near the largest one I have for Legion scale. And we also picked up a couple of Kratos battle tanks. Those are for Els' Night Lord's army, which Zeta managed to mentioned earlier, and I thought I'll build them up, and I need to see how big they are so that I can work out what bases I need to print for these guys as well. And now you can fit 6 of them on your hand. Yeah, now I can fit 6 on my hand. Yeah, I don't think you can fit a 28mm one in both hands. It's huge. So we're going to start with the Baneblades. I think we'll start with my stuff and depending on how long we go, we'll see whether we get to the Kratoses or not. I don't know how long these actually take to build. I didn't time myself last time, so because obviously built a couple of these already. So that's nice new sharp blade on that one. Don't know if you guys appreciate the sound of plastic being torn up there, but I know some people enjoy the sound. Oh, of course they'll get the magnet treatment. Well, when you say the magnet treatment, so actually magnetising the Baneblades themselves, there are not very good contact points for a lot of them, and the turrets, you only get one turret, and trying to mess around with magnetising it would be a bit of a pain. And to be honest, the only other turret in here is the Hellhammer turret, and I'm not that keen on the Hellhammer anyway, so to be honest, they won't get magnetised in terms of options, but they will have magnets in the bases, obviously. So if you have a look at the instructions here, conveniently we've got the turret already, and as you can see, the actual contact point is this thing here. Now, getting a magnet in that is going to be an absolute nightmare, and will actually involve removing too much plastic, so it'd have a really small contact point for the super glue. And to be honest, I'm not that interested. Yeah, I'm not really that interested in the Hellhammer as a vehicle anyway. In fact, the only other variant of the Baneblade I'm really interested in is actually the Shadow Sword, which is a separate kit entirely. And the only other options really on this thing, so the las cannon turrets, they're not optional, you get those. The bolter on the front, that's not an option, that's what you get. Same with the demolisher cannon. The only one that is another optional build, or an optional variant, is here. These sponsons, and again, it's going to be very, very difficult to get a magnet that's going to hold well on these bits here. Obviously, not too bad on the main chassis there, but these are not very good. So, again, I just pick the option I like. And to be perfectly honest, I've never been a fan of flamers, so I ain't gonna go for that. Autocannons are okay, heavy bolters are okay. These in game though have the point defense special rule, so it means that they're quite useful for targeting other things. So I'm a big fan of the heavy bolters anyway. So we're just gonna whack the heavy bolters on. So, breaking my usual rule, as Zeta will probably tell you, that I do tend to prefer to magnetise everything, but in Legion scale, I don't necessarily follow that as a gospel rule. So yeah, there is going to be one magnet going in here though. No, we're not going to worry too much about WYSIWYG and stuff like that. But there is going to be a magnet that goes into these, because typically you can run Baneblades, or they certainly are good options for running as your commanders, tank commanders. And I've found a way of magnetising the little slot here and the commander base into the turret on the Baneblade. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put, and I don't normally do this, so for example on the Malcadors I've got on the Lehman Russes, I've only bothered to put a magnetisable commander into one of the vehicles, because you'll only have one in the unit. Whereas the Baneblades though, you can theoretically run one Baneblade. So in theory, if I wanted to really mess around with formations, I could actually have multiple single-use Baneblades as commanders. So I will magnetise all of the Baneblades to have the option to be a commander. Which is not too bad, because I'll probably run... I mean, I'll probably want to max out the unit, so I'll probably have it probably end up with something like 6 or 8, depending on how many you can have in the unit. But 4 will do for now. But yeah, 4 commanders, not too bad. And if I wanted to run 4 armoured companies, which over the course of building this army, I'm sure I'll end up with enough tanks to do that, because every single box I've bought so far comes with more tanks. I'm sure that will be something that could happen at some point. All the tank. Well, also Joe wants to run his big tank-heavy Eldar list, so it kind of feels like I might need a big counter army of tanks. I could argue my knight army does that, but you know, you want the spectacle of track tanks versus hover tanks, I think. So, depending on the game and the narrative, that's probably how we'll run it. So, let's crack on and start building these things out. So, grabbing all the bits I need. Now, obviously, watching me build this is one thing, but I'm not going to talk you through actually the individual pieces, because one, I probably wouldn't even know the name of half these individual pieces, and two, I can't imagine that is the most interesting thing in the world. So, what we'll probably focus on is having a chat about the game in general and plans, and maybe pick up some points that Zate was talking about earlier, which, as he's in the chat, he can remind me of some of the things he was chatting about, which I may or may not have missed. Knights feel like they would do a good job of chewing through some tanks. Yeah, I mean, yeah, they do. There's no two ways about it. Most tanks only have one wound, so most of those knights will be able to carve through a knight or two, because they've got big enough bases they can tag into more than one. One thing you high chance you won't remember. Okay. I mean, that is what it is. One thing you might be interested to know is the Cerastus Knight Lancer, which I have to say has got to be one of my favourite knight kits. They have a very, very cool special rule, which is their little lance has reach, which means they can actually they can count as being engaged and therefore fighting units within 2 inches of them. Normally in Legions you can only fight something that you're within base-to-base contact with. Which means, and I discovered this while playing a few games, is that knight-on-knight combat is quite strange, because generally speaking their bases are going to be based, you have to, where possible, go base-to-base with one model per model. So it's not common that you'll necessarily have 2 knights against 1 knight, for example. So that means that when you go into combat, you only do 1 round of combat, which also means you'll only likely do 1 point of damage. Knights have 3 wounds, so if 2 knights come face to face to each other, they can only do 1 damage between them. So 1 can take damage and 1 can't. Which means it would take, in theory, 3 combat phases for a pair of knights to kill each other. Which means that that's going to be quite a drawn-out engagement. But the Lancers can fight within 2 inches, which means if you had 3, so let's say 3 Questoris Knights versus 3 Lancers, well, those Questoris Knights will now slam into these 3 Cerastus, or vice versa. Those Cerastus, the ones on the far left, can still fight the ones on the far right, which means you can potentially do 3 points of damage to each knight based on the 3 Lancers. So you basically overlapping those spears to do the damage across the entire unit, in theory then being able to wipe out an entire knight unit. Which is also potentially going to be a key tactic to taking or fighting Titans as well, because they have multi-wounds. Although, actually, against Titans they've got bigger bases, so you can get more Cerastuses in. Not really the point. But against knight-on-knight combat, it does mean that the Lancers are actually, from the rules perspective, I think are probably the most efficient combat unit of that scale to fight other knights. Because otherwise the knight's combat is just going to be quite drawn out. Yeah. And thematically it feels quite cool to have these, like this spear wall of these giant knights fighting each other and working in tandem. So it's quite cool. So that's one thing I've learnt while playing the game is, if you're going knight on knight, you want lancers in order to make the combat actually happen in a reasonable time frame. Otherwise you're literally just going to be smacking each other with big pointy sticks for a very long time. So if you end up with Questoris Knights or any of the other patterns of Cerastus, ideally you don't want them to be fighting other knights. You want them to fight other targets, because otherwise it's going to take a long time to actually do any damage. Which could lead to some interesting things, I suppose. But the standard knights are phenomenal at taking out infantry and smaller vehicles. And I would imagine they do quite well, actually, against Titans. Maybe not in the shooting phase, but in combat, those combat weapons that they're all equipped with will theoretically do quite a bit of damage to some Titans. And I think the key really is to beating Titans is either bring Titan-killing ranged weaponry, which there isn't many that aren't already on a Titan. But if you're not committed to bringing Titans, or you don't have a Titan nearby, then what you want is some decent combat units, because the Titans aren't great in combat, to be perfectly honest. With the single exception, I suppose, of any Titans that are sporting combat weapons of their own, which, to be fair, actually quite a lot of them don't. One of the variants of the War Master can't take a combat weapon. One is almost entirely combat, so that's different. The Warlord can take a Power Fist, but if it's not got, or the Atriarch Power Claw even. But if it's not got that, it's not going to be that effective in combat. The Reaver can take some combat weapons, but then Warbringers can't, Direwolves can't, Warhounds can't. So there's definitely some options there. But it does lead me to think that when I'm playing these games now, I've been quite happy to just whack a couple of ranged weapons on the Titans. please get an iconoclast. It would be hilarious. It does lead me to think when I'm loading out my Titans, if I can take a combat weapon, it's depending on who I'm up against and what I think they might be bringing. I almost feel like the melee weapons are going to be mandatory in order for my Titans not to just get absolutely stomped in combat. Because, yeah, that is the most efficient way of dealing with them if you don't have Titan-killing weapons. So, yeah, I think that's going to change up the way I play or load out my Titans now. I will probably make sure I've actually got some melee-capable weapons. Because otherwise, might be in trouble. And I'm imagining, based on the factions I'm going to be going up against, so we've got Night Lords, which will be featuring a Knight contingent. So I already know that's going to be a potential issue, because most of the Knights are combat capable as a standard. There's only a couple of Knights, I think, that you actually have the option of only bringing ranged weapons, which is one pattern of Questoris out of the 6 that has only got guns. The Acastus Knight Pytherion, or the Acastus Knight, the other one, whichever one it's called. That one, those two only have ranged weapons, and a couple of the Armigers as well. So that does mean that pretty much the majority of Knights will be sporting some kind of melee-capable weapon. So I need to keep that in mind for against the Night Lords, because I'm likely to see that a lot. And Night Lords are probably going to want to run a lot of melee-capable infantry as well. I'd be intrigued to see how the packs of Armigers with chainswords would fare. It's an interesting one, actually. The Armigers with the Helverin, not the Helverin configuration, the Warglaive configuration, which is the ones with the Reaper chain glaives and the thermal cannons, are quite interesting in what they kind of provide in terms of options, because the thermal cannons themselves, although they're short range, pack a punch. And they also have the Demolisher trait, which means if you have a pack of... So if you're running the Questoris Familiar formations, you can run Armigers as their own units from 3 models to 9. Now, I can tell you for free, if you... Just 3 of them are more than capable of demolishing most buildings. 6 or 9 of them are dropping buildings with ease. which means any infantry inside are probably pretty screwed, to be perfectly honest. So it's an interesting one because they actually provide a surprisingly good punch, which you wouldn't expect compared to, say, the Helverins, which are the dedicated ranged unit. But in terms of combat, the chain blades are pretty good, and you also got the benefit with the armature scale is that they're on smaller bases, so in theory you'll get more of them. You'll actually get more of them in base to base to, say, another knight. So they're actually, again, quite efficient at being able to fight and do damage, because let's say, for example, let's say we put three armigers into a what do we call it? A Cerastus Castigator, which has got the Tempest Warblade. Well, you put three of those in with their chain cleavers, Reaper chain blades, against this Tempestus Warblade. Well, that Tempestus Warblade is only going to do 1 damage to each of those armigers, because you do each round of combat as an individual combat. And yes, you've got 3 models in base-to-base contact, great, but you still fight 1-to-1. So it's not like in 40k where you say, oh, okay, I'm going to roll 3 times and do 3 damage and therefore kill an armiger and a half. It doesn't work like that. You do the Cerastus into 1 armiger, they fight. The Cerastus will win 9%, not probably 99% of the time, but it's only going to do 1 damage. Which means the armiger who has 2 wounds is still alive. You then fight the next armiger. If it wins, you're only doing 1 damage. And again on the next one. However, every subsequent fight, you get an extra dice to fight with on those armigers, which increases your chance of actually doing damage. Now, that Cerastus is fighting each time, which means it can take damage each time. You put enough armigers into a Cerastus, you'll eventually start doing damage to it. Now, I think 3-on-1, you're probably going to lose 1 or 2 wounds on your armigers and do a wound or 2 to the Cerastus. In theory, that's a more or less even fight, kind of. But 6 armigers, now you're in business, because you'll probably be able to wrap and trap the knight. You'll be doing 6 fights. You'll max out the number of extra dice you can roll. The Cerastus can only do 1 damage to each of those knights, and eventually it's going to start taking damage from those armigers. So those armigers will be able to bring down the knight, more than likely. Now the difference is when you get to the Lancers, obviously, because the Lancers can fight across and help each other out and get the multi-damage on the armigers. So, yeah, the armigers are very good, I think. They're not to be sniffed at, and they're fast as well. They move 8 inches as well. So an 8-inch move, which means that when you're doing a charge order, it's the equivalent of a 16-inch threat range. They can launch themselves up the board into a target with no issues. And the Cerastus patterns are not far off it at a 9-inch move as well, so they've got an 18-inch charge range. They're quite effective at closing the gap. So I would say, pretty good. I also think I need to, I noticed on your stream there, Zeta, that you had some music in the background, which I haven't got set up on this end. That's something I need to have a look at doing, I think. Getting all of the, getting some music from the channel's library. I've also just realised I've started gluing this down without cleaning up all the sprue tags. I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. I'm now going to have to try and do this without pulling the plastic apart. That's fine. Probably. Yeah, the small knights are very good. I like them. I think they're great. And if you run them in the Questoris Familiar formations, they actually get tactical strength of 3 rather than 1, which means they can actually contest and hold objectives reasonably well, especially in numbers. And yeah, I know you do it through Spotify. I've got a playlist of tracks and stuff that we use on the channel a lot, which I think I'll probably use to keep some consistency through the mediums, I think. Yeah, I'll get that. I'll think about trying to set that up for next time. Yes, I obviously was bigging up the Warglaive variant of the armour just quite a bit, but that's not to say that the Helverin configuration isn't good. That they are also good. The autocannons are surprisingly effective, considering they're light AT. So they can't do any they can't reduce the armour saves of vehicles with light AT. They can damage them, but it does mean they get their full armour saves, which can be annoying if you've got a 2-up save at target. But anything 3 or less, 3-up save or less, they're actually quite effective so long as they get enough hits in. You're likely to fail a couple of saves, and I think they do get at least 2 shots each, so you can bump out a few shots. So I quite like them, and they're quite good for just general objective holding if you're running a knight army, so to speak. Obviously, if you're playing a mixed formation, a mixed army, which is obviously what I will tend to do, then you kind of want your infantry holding those objectives, because on average, most infantry have a tactical strength of 5, which means they hold objectives very, very well. In case you don't know what tactical strength is, essentially that is the value of control a model has. So instead of it just being each model is worth 1 point of holding an objective, it's each model, based on its scale, has a level of control that they can exert on an objective. So infantry normally count as, they have a tactical strength of 5, so each model counts as 5 points of control, essentially. Whereas a Titan has 0, which means that even a single base of infantry will take an objective off an opponent, which is quite good. Does give infantry a strong purpose to exist in an army, and can actually win you games. I mean, that's pretty much how I beat the Eldar when I first played against them. Is Joe's Eldar army was all tank based, and I had shed loads of infantry. So although I couldn't really kill him with a lot of my stuff, I just sat on the objectives and just won by points. Because I didn't need to worry about actually destroying the vehicles, because the vehicles couldn't take the objectives off me. So that's the downside. So I think if we were to ever, and as I've said, Joe, if we were to run games where we sort of want to theme an army around a specific style of combat, then I think that needs to be something that we discuss pre-game so that it's not one-sided. And to be fair, I mean, I quite like the idea of running a game where you just bring all the tanks. It could be quite fun. I mean, there is a variant of the rules that already allows you to just run all Titans, Titan Death, which is a sort of soft successor to Adeptus Titanicus. Although I believe Adeptus Titanicus is still supported as its own thing at the moment. Though I would imagine the Legions variant will probably take over at some point in time. Whether that's a popular decision or not, I don't know. I'd imagine not. From what I've heard, people who are into Adeptus Titanicus are quite loyal to it, from what I've heard. But that's not to say that the Legions version isn't good. Haven't tried it. I haven't tried a Titan v Titan game yet. Mainly because I believe currently I'm the only one with any Titans actually built. And I know Els, who I play most of my games with at the moment, our practice games, isn't a fan of Titans for whatever reason, so I'm not likely to be able to give that a practice in that area just yet. But hopefully if Zeta's plans to acquire some Titans come through, then it could be an interesting game. We could do we could try out Titan Death. Could be quite interesting. Playing on tabletop, I've recently done a Titan Death game through the Legions rules, which looked quite good fun. And I just need to get up to GW. Well, I mean, I have mentioned about potentially doing a trip up to the home of all Warhammer at some point with the team, so that could be a good excuse. Just saying. Yeah, you'll need a few more to catch up with the amount I got. To be fair, I don't know how many you'd actually need to run a decent sized game. What orientation do these things need to be on? I think it's that way. Yep. Yeah, see, there's a reason I mention these things sometimes. I have a funny feeling you might have forgotten to mention that one. I have to keep on top of the team, which is an interesting task considering sometimes I'm the one that needs reminding about things a lot. As I'm running around planning everything, and I do tend to sometimes forget to actually make sure everyone else is aware of the plans. It can be like herding cats, to be honest. You're not wrong. Well, I assume so. I've never tried herding cats. I've got to say, I've never tried it. But one would assume that would be a task. Ooh, come on. There we go. Also, one thing I love about these little kits is they go together so much faster than building the full-scale ones. Which I know sounds completely obvious, but it's just another little benefit of these smaller scale miniatures. Because they are... I don't know if anyone's ever looked at or seen how to build a Baneblade, but I mean, when I built them when I was a teenager, must have taken... It took hours to build one. It took hours. Like, building one track assembly, like this bit here, probably took the same amount of time as it took me to build my entire knight army. For Legion scale, that is. So that was quite a laborious process. But you know, they do look good. Sadly, I don't own that kit anymore. I did sell it a few years back when I was getting back into the hobby and doing new armies and stuff. I wasn't keen on doing Imperial Guard anymore because I did have quite a sizable Imperial Guard force at the time. And I have to say, in the more recent years, I have thought it would have been a good idea to keep hold of them because you never know when they might come in useful or when I might get round to finishing them up, painting them up. But, you know, we live and we learn. I've still got some of them left over. I remember I sold 4 basilisks to someone I used to know, and they used them to convert into orc vehicles, smash them apart. No worries. I suppose dinner is a thing that people need. Does remind me, actually, I need to make sure I eat myself because I haven't really eaten at all today. I think I've had a packet of crisps. Something I should consider doing, I suppose. But hey ho, we'll fly through this first. See if we can get a couple of Baneblades done before we sign off. Might be a bit of a tall order. Right. So after having experience of the big kits, this almost feels like I'm halfway through it already. Which may or may not be true. I can't quite remember whether this is the halfway point or not, but it does feel like we're trucking on quickly there. So yeah, I don't know if you caught the message I put in the chat of your first half, Zeta, because I think there was quite a lot of chatting going on. But you were. Ooh. Yes, it does have an underside. I put a little message in because there's something one of the many things that we didn't quite get round to when we met up with the team yesterday is sort of mentioning a few plans and whatnot that's going to be happening for the channel going forward. And one of the things that is on my radar to get done, which is also one of the reasons why I'm frantically trying to get a load of terrain done, which might not seem true considering I'm building models right now, but trust me, there is a hefty amount of terrain under construction on the other side of the room. Is I intend to create a small series of how to play videos for Legions Imperialis, because to the best of my knowledge there aren't many of these videos that exist online on YouTube, and Games Workshop themselves haven't done one. They've got a how to play on Warhammer TV for pretty much every game system apart from Legions, from what I've seen, and I've checked several times and it's still not there. So I thought that we would fix that problem. So one of the first sort of major Legions videos probably will be a small series of how to play. And my concept for that will be a series of videos that will basically break down into small sort of, let's say, 2 to 5 minutes on average, I think, videos that just goes through all of the key stages of the game. So do a section on setting up, do a section on how to build your army, do a section on the orders phase, movement phase, go through all the different phases, and then maybe a subsequent set of videos that sort of goes through various key differences in some of the rules. Like there needs to be a little video on how Titans work, because Titans just break some of the rules that every other unit has to follow, but they don't. And that will go up live on YouTube for free for everyone to look at, and hopefully learn how to play the game. But after that, yeah, that's pretty much exactly the ideology I've got behind it. But then I want to do a separate version of this. So one thing I'm currently working on alongside everything else, and hopefully I'll get done at some point in the near future, is a documentation that kind of lists out all of the sort of Mead Hall house rules, or Mead Hall rules compendium that kind of attaches onto Legions, that just modifies or edits some stuff. Yeah. Basically, so yeah, a documentation that covers all of the different additions or modifications we've made to the rules, and will be a living document that will also include any new units and stuff that we add. But I want to do and that will be live and free to anyone to have access to. So we'll probably post that up on. We'll post some kind of link somewhere. I haven't quite decided how we're going to do that yet. But in addition to that, what I want to do is another series of videos, which will basically be a version of the how-to video that also incorporates and highlights Mead Hall changes. So the things that we have changed so that you can learn the rules for free, completely free, via video on YouTube based on the rules as written. But then what we'll probably do is we will start at some point this year a Patreon for people who want to join us, or a membership area if we get to that point early enough on YouTube, that will include a how to play video based on our rules changes. The rules changes that we will be presenting will be freely available, so you won't have to pay for those, but you would have to join our Patreon to actually watch the videos of us explaining how those rules changes works in a cohesive way, or in a similar way to the rules as written version that will be on YouTube. So it'll be an optional bonus if you want to help support us, and that will probably be one of the first set of videos that we put on, is this version of the Mead Hall how to play. So that if you want to replicate the way we play the game at home, you can actually see how it's done. If just reading the rules isn't enough for you. But hopefully, for those of you who are happy to go ahead, you should just be able to, realistically, you should be able to just watch the YouTube how to play and then use our addendum to figure out how we've modified the rules for yourself. But if you want a nice concise way of doing it all in one go, then that will be a bonus feature that we'll provide to Patreons once we've got that all set up. Well, I like to think we do have some good additional rules. We certainly put a lot of effort into fine-tuning some stuff that we think needs a slight modification. As a general rule, the rules for the game are fantastic. There's just a couple of little areas, really, where we felt like they needed some modification. Or we wanted to add some new stuff. So one thing that will be brought up on one of our future podcasts that will probably come out towards the end of this month. So there'll be another... Actually, no, that one will probably come out in early February. We've got another podcast that should be coming out in the next week or so. Which is one that we recorded last year, which needs to be finalised and uploaded, and then we've got another 2 that we've recorded in the new year. But one of them features a talk about the future of Legions, and I reference in that what I'm going to tell you now, which is a little preview for them, which is a set of rules for a different way to play missions and scoring in Legions to make it a little bit more dynamic, and takes a lot of inspiration from the tactical secondary system from 40k. So I currently have, in fact I've already designed, I haven't playtested them yet, that's on the to-do list for myself and the team, probably mostly myself and Els to start with, which will be going through a set of decks for these sort of tactical secondary missions. And the current decks as they stand, I've got 2 decks. One's an attacker deck and one is a defender deck. And they are thematically designed to be attacker secondaries and defender secondaries. So they are distinct. They are actually different. Unlike the 40k ones, which are mirrored, they're exactly the same. I thought it would be nice to see if there was a way of actually making a nice balanced way of actually having objectives that differ for both defenders and attackers, so that you really get the feeling that one side is doing one job. And I think, based on what I've done, I might have achieved that, but obviously I don't know that until I actually run the game. And to a certain degree, in order to help with balance, there are some that are similar, but have a slightly different focus. So I'll give you an example of one of the sets of objectives I've got. So there's a... Yes, I am going to attempt to make attack and defender actually mean something. So I'm going to give you an example. So one of the examples I'll give you is that there is one for the defender called, I think it's something like, now, relying on my memory here, so it might not be perfect, but it is priority assets, or priority asset. No, high value asset is what it's called. So it's a defender card. If you draw this card, you must, your opponent, I think, picks one of your units that's on the board, and as the defender, you must ensure that unit is not reduced below 50% of its starting strength for that round. If I'm wrong, I'll just change it, yeah. So the high value target, your opponent picks a unit, and the defender must keep that unit above its starting tactical strength for that round, I think. Or it might be keep it alive. It's one of the two. Or it might be what I call a progressive objective, where you get 5 points for keeping it alive and above 50% of its starting strength, and you only get 3 if it's above, if it's under half but still alive. It's one of those two. Something like that. So essentially the objective is, opponent picks a target, you keep it alive. Let's call it that for now. Now there's a mirror to that in the attacker deck, but instead of keeping a target alive, it's called high priority target. So again, the defender picks a unit from their army that the attacker must destroy or do damage to in order to score points. So the defender version is pick a unit, keep it alive. The attacker version is pick a unit, get rid of it. Which could lead to some interest in play if you both draw the mirrored cards, because you could end up picking the same target. So the defender has to defend the same target the attacker is trying to destroy. But then you might draw the cards at 2 different times, and therefore you will have that same kind of interplay going on. So that's an example of one that's essentially mirrored. But again, not mirrored in the same way that the 40k version is. It is very much, they've got 2 different emphases on them. One is defense and keeping something alive. One is actually destroying the target. And one thing you'll notice about the attacker deck is the attacker deck is much more aggressive. So the attacker cards are very much focused on you being on the opponent's side of the table, or either being on your opponent's side of the table or being in no man's land, or targeting units to remove them from the table. The defender deck is more focused on being on your own side of the table or no man's land, or keeping the opponent out of it. Okay, there's very few, if any, in the defender's deck that actually requires you to kill targets or destroy targets. There are a couple, I think, 1 or 2, but it's very much a case of this is our land, stay off it. The attackers is very much, we want your land, so we're coming for it. So you should feel, in theory, if I've built it right and it works, the attacker is going to feel like the attacker because they are going to be on that side of the table. They're going to be pushing forward constantly. The defender is very much going to be trying to hunker down and defend their side of the table. So you will also then be able to potentially build a list around that. So if you decide you want to play it in a more narrative way, you can say, right, let's play a narrative game. We're going to play this mission, blah, blah, blah. I want to be the attacker. You want to be the defender. Okay, cool. I will build a list tailored to being the defender. So I will take my defensive weapons and defense guns and infantry to garrison buildings, and the opponent might go, okay, cool. I'm probably going to be less concerned about staying on the back line, so I'm going to bring aggressive units to push forward. Of course, you can also play it more balanced, so you both bring balanced lists and you can randomise who's attacker and defender, and it should still work. But you can build more thematic ways of playing because one side is designed to be aggressive and one side is designed to be defensive. So that's the main crux of it. Okay, so there's a defender deck, an attacker deck. And each of those is 9 cards. Okay, you get 9 cards for each side, and they all have a total of they all have the same. Sorry, we'll try it out. Great. So each deck, I believe. So there's 2 types of cards as well. There's what I call a single scoring card and a progressive card. A single scoring card has one objective that's hard to complete but scores you 8 points. There's a progressive card, and there's a set of progressive cards where you can score 3 points or an additional 5 points, so a total of 8, for completing a 2-stage objective. The total value of the victory points are exactly the same for both decks, so no deck is capable of scoring more than the other, and each one has the same number of single point objectives and the same number of progressive objectives, so again, trying to keep that balanced. Now 9 cards isn't a huge amount, so I also have included an additional set of, I believe, 7 universal secondaries. Okay, and as I'm sure you can imagine, those 7 cards are the same for both decks. So there is still some level of consistency on the decks as well. You will have a couple of cards, well, 7 cards, that both players can draw, and they will be more focused on more generic styles of working, or more generic objectives that don't necessarily focus on being on either side of the board. Some kind of focus more towards being in the middle, which you might expect, but something I've tried my best to make sure that those universal cards do not favour being an attacker or defender as best I can, and I'm pretty confident I've achieved that. Not trying to add more complexity to it, but have you seen secondaries in AOS? They have a thing where you can use a card to score points or burn the card for that round for a boon instead. I recall you mentioning something like that. No is the short answer. I haven't looked at that yet, and potentially it's something we can look at doing. However, for the time being, I do want to focus on obviously getting these new secondaries pinned down. Currently, at the moment, what I'm thinking in terms of, like, if you feel like you can't complete an objective or something, you're just going to, at the end of the round, be able to trade in any cards you haven't successfully used to draw new ones in the next turn. And potentially including the ability to trade in 1 card at the start of the round, maybe. But I also want to include the same rule in 40k, is once the card is gone, it's discarded. You can't redraw it. So it's not a case of, oh, okay, let's just discard until I get something I like, and I'll draw that later. No, it's got to be a tactical decision. If you decide to not do that objective, you don't get the card again. So you are going to have to make a bit of a choice. But yes, potentially we can have a look at something like that, where you can maybe gain a boon from trading in a card and not scoring the points. But I'm not sure yet. We'll see. I want to test out the rules as I've designed them for now, and see how they work. Which I think is probably a safe way of doing things for now, because we're testing things out. But I'm all for adding in some new stuff if we think it works. If they have a thing. They have a thing where you can use a card to score points. Oh, I'm just rereading the same thing. So yeah, I think that's probably the way we'll go. And what I probably will do as well is I'm gonna write new missions as well to sort of account for this change of style for the secondaries. On the off chance that they don't work so well with the basic missions. In theory, I don't think it'll matter because of the way the main missions are written. Generally speaking, I think most of them would work with a change in secondaries anyway. But, again, building on this idea of that I want an attacker and defender to feel like an attacker and defender, I do want to look at making some I want to make the primary objectives more focused on actions and stuff like that, where you can where one side is trying to achieve a specific goal rather than just let's hold point 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and each one is worth X number based on some arbitrary decision. I'm thinking more like the primaries are going to be specific actions each side has to take or deny the opponent in order to attain points during the game. So, like sabotaging key structures or terrain pieces in the opponent's deployment zone. So the attacker must disable or destroy 3 predetermined areas of terrain using a certain set of rules, and they will score points depending on how many to destroy. And the defender will then gain whatever points they don't achieve for obviously defending those that they didn't destroy. And hopefully that will kind of work. And hopefully they'll play off each other and you'll get this real feeling of attack and defence. Here we go, let's see what we've got. I guess... oh god, I've got to try and catch up now. I guess also the alternating activations means you don't need to worry about the CP stuff that comes with secondaries and 10th. Nope, don't have to worry about that. Like it costs you to get rid of... yeah. My only potential concern is it might end up with a whole game being played in no man's land and the defender's territory. Yes, but I also kind of feel like that's the way it should be. Because you're still, if you're still playing you're still going to have units that are going to favour being on the back line, generally speaking. You know, if you're, even as the attacker, I'm still going to want to bring basilisks to rain artillery strikes on the opponent, so I'm still going to have units in the back. It very much means that you can build your army based on what you want to do, and you don't have to have things in the back if you don't want to, which to me feels thematic for how an attacker should be. I mean, if an attacker just wants to charge up the board and do as much damage as possible, they should be able to do that. I mean, if you think about, say, a World Eater's army in 40k, they don't have much, if any, ranged combat, so they're at a disadvantage almost innately because you feel like you have to keep stuff in the backline that can't do anything. Whereas with this system, the entire army can rush up the board and still score points. But if they do have, I don't know, say I don't know if they might have access to like a a Legends unit that's an artillery piece, then sure, they could take that and put it in the back. They still have the option to, but it's not required. And again, there's still going to be a desire to be on the other side of the table for the defender, because of the way there's an innate set of rules in the game for facing. So you will want a deep strike behind the enemy, because then they can't shoot you because they're facing the wrong way, or you'll get better AP for hitting them in the rear anyway. So you're still, by the nature of the game already, there's already an incentive to still get onto the other side as the defender, but it's more about being strategic in terms of dealing with your opponent rather than I need to arbitrarily control a point on the other side of the table because reasons. It's more, okay, I want to get my unit on the other side of the table so I can outflank the enemy and gain those bonuses and not be shot at in return by those big vehicles that can only shoot in one direction. So I see what you're saying, but I think based on the way the game is designed, that actually kind of solves itself in theory. But I need to play test it to see if it works. If it doesn't work, then might have to go back to the drawing board and maybe go for the whole mirrored approach that 40k uses. Yeah, exactly. That's kind of the thought process. But we'll see. It is very much in the development phase. We could find that my idea doesn't work at all, or it needs tweaking. So I'm quietly confident it'll work. But we shall see. These bolters do not want to go in here for some reason. Oh, there we go, that's why. Got them in. So yes, secondaries and new missions will be coming hopefully very soon, once I've got my head around how they're going to work and playtesting them. And they will be freely available online once we've solidified our desires and rules for them. Like Imperial Fist might play defender, but just digging into the back line, but the Alpha Legion player is taking things that can drop behind the attacker instead. Yeah. You can literally theme it however you like, essentially. The idea is you should in theory be able to theme your army like you would in the lore and still be able to play attacker and defender, but in a way that also matches and mirrors the way you feel the army should play in lore, the way you want the army to play. Because yeah, you're quite right. If I'm playing my Alpha Legion army that's all flyer based, or if I'm the defender, well, okay, my flyers aren't going to be defending that. They won't be defending the my deployment zone in the same way that, say, an Imperial Fist or an Iron Warriors army would defend their deployment zone. They would defend it in a much different way, which probably would involve getting in behind and doing that damage. So, yeah, pretty much. Ooh, I've missed a step. Hello. I gotta put some armor panels on the top of these chassis. I'm getting too excited by objectives now and new things that I'm not actually paying attention to what I'm supposed to be building. I think we haven't gone too far ahead though. We're all good. I get far too excited about rules. I think my next objective will probably have to be to write those, at least write a mission, I think, to give these rules a try. Yeah, it's probably an accurate statement. I enjoy figuring the rules out. I like to think I've got pretty good at making reasonably fair rules as well, balanced rules. As balanced as anyone can make a game of complexity. My Stormbird rules seem to work alright. They do exactly what I want them to do, and they're not overpowered because I've definitely been able to knock a few out of the sky when else have been using them. So they seem to do their job nicely. And although I do knock them out of the sky, as I say, they've already done their job, which is to drop in a massive payload of infantry and cause me problems. So they seem to work. Although I have discovered the Avenger Strike Fighters, so your fighter planes, they are filthy good. They are really nice. But they do die to a stiff breeze. A couple of Sakaran autocannons, not even that many of them, managed to wipe out almost an entire unit of my planes in a single shot. And that was an Overwatch shot as well, so not exactly the easiest thing to do. And they still managed to take out almost the entire unit of planes in an Overwatch. I can easily recommend it. I think they're going to be good. And realistically, I mean, air assets are harder to remove from by ground assets. They can be done, as I say. The Sakarans did actually do a decent job of it. But I think, yeah, air vehicles need to fight other air vehicles for efficiency's sake. But it's not necessary. It's not required. It just might make life a little bit easier depending on what happens. And I think the Xiphons might be pretty good. I mean, I've not actually. Don't think I've actually read the rules for the Xiphons specifically, because the Astartes vehicles I've got are very much focused on the transports and gunships rather than the fighters. But I have heard it said about Legions that the Space Marines dominate the air, which to a general 40k player probably sounds a little bit odd, but it does actually make a certain kind of sense, because they are Space Marines, so they are, you know, the sort of special forces of the Navy, and the air assets from the Space Marines probably would be slightly better than the standard ones, one would think. So in a roundabout way it does make sense, but from a casual 40k player it might not immediately make sense, because they're not generally known, I think, in 40k for having the best flyers in the game, but it does actually make sense. Xiphons or Fire Raptors? Well, I mean, I like Fire Raptors. That's what I've got. I've got Fire Raptors and Storm Eagles. That's mainly because of the playstyle I wanted for that army. I think in general, the Fire Raptors are great as gunboats, which is what they're supposed to be. So they've got some capacity to fight other air assets. They do have some Skyfire weapons, but they don't have the interceptor rule, and the interceptor rule is the key one, because it allows you to shoot at another airborne target in the turn you arrive in the movement phase. Oh, sorry, in the movement phase. So you can literally fly on and fire one of your Skyfire weapons straight into another air target, which is why the Avengers were so good in the game I played recently against my own Alpha Legion that Els was running, because she had all of the Fire Raptors pop in. They all flew on. Their target was to try and take out my Warlord, or at least pull off all its Void Shields. I immediately countered that by bringing on the Avenger Strike Fighters, and in the movement phase I was then able to use the interceptor rule and fire off one of my sets of Skyfire weapons, and basically nuked all three of them off the table in a single round of shooting before I'd even got to the shooting phase. And Interceptor, you can fire those weapons again in the combat phase as well. It's a free set of shooting. So if you want... I mean, they went down very well. I don't know that Els would agree. So yeah, if you're thinking about getting a unit, specifically thinking about the fact that I will probably be running Avengers in most games because I like my air assets, then I would probably recommend Xiphons, because they're going to be able to directly counter Avengers much more so than the Fire Raptors will. But then if you want Fire Raptors for more flexibility, because they're arguably better at taking out certain targets on the ground, then they're better, I would say. I'm not entirely sure, but I think Fire Raptors... I don't know if the Xiphons have the same 3-up save as the Raptors. They might not, because I noticed that the Avengers, the Interceptor fighters, only have a 4-up save. And it wouldn't surprise me if the Xiphons only had a 4-up, whereas the Fire Raptors have the 3-up, so they're slightly tougher. But that's me speculating, not actually checking the rules straight away. And so don't take that as gospel. That would be worth considering or checking out. But yeah, overall, I would probably recommend Xiphons, regardless, I would think. And there is something rather satisfying about having some fighter planes on the table. Of course, I am very biased in that opinion. As Joe from our team likes to point out, I am the supporter of the flyer. Okay, they do say 103+. Okay. So maybe they're not necessarily. Maybe the fire raptors aren't any tougher then. Yeah. I'm sure there will be a distinction between the two, beyond just the fact that the fire raptors don't have the interceptor rule. Would be my guess anyway. This is where you get your siphons, you get them all painted up, and I just go, do you know what? I'll just bring a load of anti-air guns and not put any flyers in the sky just to wind you up. Just run all Titans with Vulcan Mega Bolters. It is quite nice to actually have an army that's large enough that I can actually pick and choose what I want to bring for every game now, rather than having to just modify the odd one. Yeah, to be fair, yes, some more anti-air probably would be nice. I'm trying to think. I mean, there is a reasonable amount of anti-air. The issue is I just don't think any of us have really done any of it yet. Because I know some of the either some of or all of the tarantula batteries for Solar Auxilia anti-air. So the Solar Auxilia have a dedicated anti-air space covered for that. And I know the Astartes have the Deredeo Dreadnoughts as well, which are all dedicated anti-air units. Knights don't really have an anti-air unit. The Acastus does have the option to take some anti-air missiles, which are quite effective, but they're limited in number. And then obviously the Titans don't have a lot. Only the Nemesis Warbringer and the War Master has any dedicated anti-air weapons. But as previously already stated, the Vulcan Mega Bolters are actually quite effective at it. So I think there is a reasonable amount of anti-air in the game. It's just a case that we haven't really thought about taking those units or getting those units in. But yes, there are definitely other units that could be added to add a bit more anti-air. I know. Again, Solar Augs, they do have vehicles that have the anti-air battlefield role, such as the I want to say the Hydra, which I'm pretty confident there must have been Hydras during the Heresy. I don't think that's a 40k unit specifically. I would think, but I might be wrong in that. They may have been a post-Heresy addition, but I can't imagine they are. And then the Astartes. The Astartes do have an anti-air vehicle, if I remember right. They've got... I can't remember for the life of me what it's called. But I know it's basically on the Rhino chassis, but it's got extra... it's got like... I don't know what you call them, like locking clamp type things where they, like these big pistons that I assume fire into the ground to anchor the turret to the floor, or anchor the vehicle to the floor, and it's got a big anti-air gun on the top. Yeah, it's not the Whirlwind. The Whirlwind's an artillery piece, although I think there is a the Whirlwinds might have some anti-air missiles options potentially. but it is more of an artillery piece, to the best of my knowledge. No, there is definitely a full-on anti-air vehicle. Do you know what? Let's have a look. I think I've got a browser that we can use. Here we go. Let's have a little look, shall we? Let's go through here. Go to Space Marines. We'll look in the 40k one, just because it'll probably come up quickly. I just want generic Space Marines. Ah, is it the Stalker? That would make sense. See if I can grab it on the screen. Is it gonna show me all my filter options? Let's see. Oh, I've obviously filtered it too much. Okay, this might be a little bit of a task. Lots of Primara stuff. I'm sure this thing still exists in the current game. I'm sure it does. I mean, what you were saying about the Hammerfall bunker yesterday, is that in Heresy? Does that have anti-air capability? God, Space Marines have way too many models. And Raiders, drop pods, 171 kits on here. I mean, in fairness, it is including a lot of extra kits that are for all the non-chapters. So there's the Whirlwind. That's interesting, that's online only. Is it gonna be here? Oh, it's not there. That's interesting. Okay, maybe it is gone. Well, I mean, we can always have a look at Horus Heresy. Loyalist Astartes Legions, siege tank destroyers. Ooh, some fun stuff here. Scorpius missile tank. It can be taken in the Heresy. That's interesting. Maybe we'll see a Legions version of that one day. Scorpius missile tank, is that a... If I click on that, is that gonna let me know if it's a... Oh, I can't click into it for some reason. That might be an anti-air tank, I'm not sure. Kind of looks like it might be. Unless that's just the old version of the Whirlwind. Obviously we know that one is an anti-air vehicle. We've already discussed that. 233 kits. Of course it's going to include all of this stuff. All those extras, all the Primarchs and upgrade kits. I was hoping it would come up quite early. Ooh, didn't even know I forgot about that. Big Bombard. Do you know what? I completely forgot about this style of Space Marine tank. I thought that exists. I guess these are the proper artillery pieces for the Astartes. Ooh, they'd be quite cool to see. Also, these Mastodons and Fellblades. Oh, really? I clicked on that about 10 minutes ago. Well, several minutes ago. Mobile tube price, heavy support, blah blah blah. Rocket barrage. Often collection referred to as whirlwinds. Tanks met with. Okay, right. Fighting long range, covering fire and trench breaching barrages. So yeah, that doesn't imply that that's a dedicated anti-air unit. Okay, right. let's see if I can filter this down. Nope, I can't. Right, okay. Let's try this method. I know the search bar's not amazing on this site. But you mentioned it was called a stalker, which sounds right. Constructs. No. I have to say, this is not filling me with hope. Have these things just been removed? Do they no longer exist? Doesn't look like it, does it? Interesting. Interesting. Can't find that anymore. Oh, I closed that down. That was a mistake. What we got? Yeah, it probably will come to Legions eventually. No, that's true. None of us have bikes or bike adjacent units really. Which I don't think. Yeah, no, the auxiliaries don't get bikes of any description. I'll be interested to see if those. I say if. I mean, as we've already discussed, we think it's a guarantee. But I'll be interested to see if those tiny little Sentinel style walker things come into Legions for the auxiliaries, because I don't know, I kind of like them. They're a bit odd, these sort of downscaled Sentinels, but I like them. They look kind of cool. They probably do look a little bit too similar to a certain Walker-esque unit found in a certain Star Wars franchise during the Clone Wars era. But you know, we won't go too much into that. Oh. But yes, there's definitely some interesting things that we might see coming in the future. Right, I've still got to put all those on. I'll put those little bits on the back, and it's just the turret assembly, and we're done. I'll tell you what, I'm running a little bit over. I don't know what. You don't know what I'm on about? Do you not know? Hang on. Oh, that's weird. I thought you didn't know what I was on about in terms of the vehicles I was mentioning. You had me worried then. Yes. Note. I picked up on the sarcasm after the second statement. Okay. Yes. So we are theoretically past cut-off point. Normally I wrap up at 5, but I was a little bit late on anyway. So what I'll do is I'll carry on and finish these guys up, because these aren't going to take too long. There's only a couple of little bits to do, and then I'll close out so that I can go have some dinner. So let's get these on. Make sure I mount them in the right place as well. That would help. I mean, these won't be totally finished, because what I won't do is I'm not going to sit here and magnetise those hatches on camera, because they will be that will involve some drilling, which probably won't be particularly fun to listen to, or fun to talk over. So I won't do that bit, but we'll get the most of it built up, so you can see the full process of building a Baneblade. Well, 2. So we've only got a couple of turrets to put on after this. And I'm pretty sure the turret assembly is quite easy to install. Is that what? Ooh, I'm going to chuck me a tiny bit across the table. That's what I don't want to do. Oh, and I've just dropped it. It's fine. I got it. We're good. Right, that thing is too tiny. I can't hold on to it. So we're going to cheat. pair of grippies. And to be fair, I probably should have put that on before I put the exhaust on. Sometimes some of these bits are just a little bit fiddly. I think the glue's dried off. Oh, there we go. We're on. There we go. Oh, that wasn't too painful, he says. He says looking like that, realising it's the wrong way around. Well, actually, is that? Nah, that'll be alright. That looks fine to me. When we're done, you have a rage suggestion. Okay. What's AC Miniatures? I don't know them. Do you want to explain who that is? Or whom they may be? They're waiting up on an Emperor's Children Praetor. I assume that means painting up. Yeah, figured. Worth asking though. I mean, you might have meant what you said. I'll be very interested to see what the Emperor's Children are going to look like in the new 40k era. That's going to be quite interesting. Here we go, let's get these turrets on. You agree with me on that one now, do you? You think I might be right? We did have a little discussion yesterday off camera while recording about what we think might be turning up in the Emperor's Children release later this year. There was a little bit of conflicting opinions and some shared. Yep. So I do hope the Thousand Suns and the World Eaters get a little bit more loving before the end of this edition, because they are severely lacking. especially disappointed that the old Thousand Sons, who were the first of the mono-god legions, is still sat probably on one of the smallest ranges of all of them. Because they don't really, I mean, I could almost argue that even the World Eaters realistically have more unit variety. It's probably not strictly true, but it feels like it. Obviously, a little bit biased. They are my favourite of the God-aligned Legion. But and I have to say, I want to see Red Butchers. See, when you say statements like that, right, that makes me wonder, right, because I did catch a little bit of your conversation in your half of the stream about playing a character that becomes the bad guy in D&D. I feel like that's not unintentional, to be honest. When you make statements like that, I feel like you're asking to be the bad guy when you say that. I think you've just got some kind of natural inclination there. You and Erebus can be best buds. Like I said, you make a little Legions Erebus, and I'm just gonna bring an Imperator Titan, and I'm just gonna spend the entire game trying to get my Imperator Titan to step on him. Not shoot him, step on, just to add insult to injury. Yeah, I don't mind Argotol though. Argotol was quite an interesting character. Hang on, who is Corferon? Oh, I know who he is actually. He's the leader, isn't he? He's the actual leader of the the legionaries, rather. Oh, not accounting for Lorgar, obviously. Yeah, especially with kill your own models. I mean, I'm just saying, I feel like we need demon summoning rules. And I feel like a blood sacrifice might be required. Yeah, he was, yeah. He was Lorgar's adoptive father. Yeah, that's a character I'd like. There is a character I'd like to see for Emperor's Children, which I don't know if we're going to get, but I feel like we really, really should. Because I know Lucius the Eternal is like the famous one in terms of 40k, but Eidolon, the actual master of the Legion under Fulgrim, we need Eidolon. Yeah, he was old. He's not. I don't believe technically. I don't believe Corferon technically is a full Astartes. He's just a genetically modified human. Yeah, he's not theoretically a full Space Marine. Because yeah, he couldn't go through the whole process because he was too old. Because there's a couple like that. Because I think even Araman from Thousand Sons was an upgraded human rather than a full Astartes. Luther from the Dark Angels, same problem. Yeah, they're not strictly speaking actually Astartes, not in the truest sense of the word. Oh, no, wrong side. So yeah, that's sugar. Uh-oh. Oh no, I lost a bit of plastic glue there. I think you're dreaming if you think you're going to get a Doom Rider. Oh no. Plastic glue everywhere. Oh, it's a new pot as well. Oh, thankfully I don't think I lost too much. Oh, thankfully I didn't get any models, because that would have been very unfun to try and clean. I mean, you haven't really got a choice there. You're going to have to live in your dream happily, because I don't think it's ever going to come true. I suppose it might, but it's probably not going to. Ah, glue all over the handle. Ugh, lovely. I mean, yes, it would look cool. I don't disagree with that. I just can't see it happening, I'm afraid. As much as you wish it to happen. I mean, in fairness, you could make it happen. You could put the effort in, and you could convert one up for yourself. That's what I do. If I want a model, I just make it. Honestly, not sure how on earth you'd go about doing that, but it could. I'm sure it could be done. Like the idea of it, don't want to make it. Maybe I'll add it onto the list of things that I might make one day, and I'll make one for you. You can paint it though. That's all I'm saying. Oh, you're going to make word bearers of you? Yeah, okay, yeah. I mean, it kind of makes sense. Well, I think when once I've got through all of these, this set of Legions models, I shall probably start using the streaming content to work through that rather large pile of shame I've got building up. I need to get what I've got done and painted up, and then anything new I get for Legions will be for personal hobby time. I think I'll then start using the streams to start working on some 40k piles and get through some of those, because it is getting quite big, or has got quite big over the last couple of years. Let's see about getting some of that done, so that I do have some 40k armies to play if I want to actually play some 40k again. Which, to be fair, if I've got some time and someone to play with, I'll definitely do some more 40k, but at the moment, it's very much working on the old Legions. Got to become an expert at that. Well, as much of an expert as any of us are going to be. Play them as all the chaos factions. Yeah. Yeah, I know you have mentioned one-page rules a few times. Certainly wouldn't mind giving it a go at some point. I'll tell you one thing that will get me to play 40k again, even if it's just for a couple games. It'll be horde mode. I want to give that a go. Yeah, I know. I'm aware that in one-page rules you do have the capacity to make your own units and stuff, which is quite cool, I have to say. Well, obviously we do that anyway, but I know it's actually factored into their rule system for making your own, which is very cool. I'd like to say it'd be nice to see Warhammer do that, but they've been moving further and further away from encouraging you to do your own thing. Doesn't stop us doing it, but yes, that's what I like, the idea of allied armies. As anyone who will eventually see my Legions army will know, I like allied armies. I like to mix and match and have some fun. And I think allied armies work particularly well for people like me and Zeta, because neither of us are particularly good at staying in one lane when it comes to an army. So it is good to try and find an army that you can thematically tie together, so that at least you're just constantly building one army, even if it's different armies. That is rather simple. Right, this is the final bits I'm going to clip out for these guys, because the only other bit I'll be doing is the magnets in here, but as I say, I'm not doing that on camera because that won't be ideal. So we will clean these up, glue these together, pop the tanks together, and you can see them in all of their completed glory. Well, mostly completed. Obviously, nothing on the top, nothing in the that top turret, and not on there bases that we like to put our vehicles on. In fact, when I'm done here, once I've had me food and had a little break, I shall probably hop onto the PC and get some 3D files ready to go. I've got a couple more bits to print off for my Titans, which is just a couple of extra weapon arms, so that I've got all the variant options, because we like options. I say all of them, I mean most of them. I won't be doing them all, because there are some that just don't grab me. And I don't see the need to rush ahead and make or paint arms or weapon loadouts that I don't really have much interest in. Yeah, I can send you the magnet bases. Do you just want the supported ones, or do you want the unsupported ones instead of, or as well as? I'll do that when we close up. Yeah, no worries. And I have no doubt that as soon as you get that Titan box, you'll be pinging me for supported Titan arms. This last cannon up. You want them all up front, okay? Right. Oh. Well, actually, I need to tidy up the title folder actually. So I will send them to you, but I need to tidy up the folder first because it's a bit of a mess, and I need to tidy it up for when I eventually buy more and need to find the files quickly. Because I can guarantee you 10,000 points, it won't satisfy me, I want more. It's not even a case of won't satisfy me. It doesn't. I already know that I want more. I won't be going quite so crazy this time because I'll have plenty enough to work with then, so I can just sort of casually add bits and pieces as I want. We have more than enough to provide content for the channel as well, so it will just be a case of adding bits and pieces as and when I fancy adding a little bit here and there. I missed that. Right, pop these last cans together. I do love plastic glue. Just quick hold. And done. Right then, let's whack some guns on. Here we go. Try and keep it in shot. So let's grab. How are we gonna orientate the turret? I'm going across. Like that. Pop a heavy bolter on here. Going off an angle. Let's grab ourselves demolisher cannon. Couple of las cannons. I'm trying not to think about these too much because then it's a little bit more randomised. Makes it feel a little bit more natural. apart from when it comes to the turrets, they do tend to need a little bit of thunking, just for ease of painting, really, because I could whack it there, but then it's going to be a pain to paint in there, and I like to avoid that, so I do like to offset it so that I can get in. But something like that's probably good for me. Let's whack that on. Cool. There we go. Whack another bolter down here. I'll offset that one a little bit. Let's have this demolish cannon tilting up, make it look a bit different. There you go, look, firing at a big old angle, make it look a bit different. Especially as this cannon is also facing up. Actually, it would look quite cool, actually. We'll go with that. Put those last cannons on. Firing out to the sides, maybe. Put that plate on there. Bit of glue in there. And yeah. And there we are. 2 Baneblades. Okay, so that took a little bit longer than I thought, and we have overrun quite a bit further than I thought. But we've got 2 finished Baneblades ready to jump on the table. Which can't remember how many points there. I think they're about 100 points each. I think, roundabout. So that is a little chunk of models there. I mean, strictly speaking, not totally finished, as I say, got to get the magnets in there, get the bases on, but it's looking good. So, a few more points of tanks to add to my ever-expanding collection. So, it's all looking good. So hopefully at some point, you might even get to see me paint them up. Unless I obviously paint them up off camera. I have far too much to paint to do them all on camera. So you won't necessarily get to see these, but you never know. If I don't get an opportunity to paint them on stream, they will be painted up and put on socials. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to swap over to this camera. So to sort of sign out and do the sort of the post bit. And what will happen is we'll go through all the transition slides and stuff like that, and then there'll be we'll go into the end card, and we'll do this this raid mechanic that Zeta is introducing me to. So we'll do that in the end phase. And obviously this will be where we cut off for YouTube as well at that point. So thank you very much for joining me. Thank you, Zeta, for chatting with me in the chat, and thank you for being around, really. So if you're watching this in the future, yeah, if you're watching this in the future, thank you for joining us. Thank you for being on the YouTube. If you are on the YouTube, please do like, subscribe, and share. Thank you for being here, and do not forget to join us on all the various socials, TikTok, Instagram, we are on Facebook as well, YouTube, and here on Twitch. So thank you very much. See you all soon. Goodbye for now.